Chapter 105. Fang Zhao did not know that the engineers at Fiery Bird were talking about him. He was standing in his office on the 50th floor, looking out the window. Every 5 minutes, an image of Polar Light would appear on the skyscrapers in the distance. Recently, Polar Light's figure could be seen everywhere in Yenzhou. Billboards, floating holographic screens on skyscrapers, motion and static posters. Besides the joint advertising campaigns by Silverwing and Fiery Bird, there were also Yenzhou advertisements by Su Feng's 4 Elephants. It seemed that overnight, Polar Light had exploded in popularity. At a press conference for Polar Light's film, which Silverwing had invested in, the media had inquired about Polar Light's endorsement. A spokesperson had accidentally revealed that Polar Light's endorsement fee for 4 Elephants was 10 million a year. Many people's first reaction to this was disbelief. Hype. Definitely hype. If it was Fiery Bird who had offered such a high price, they would have believed it. But other companies, especially one that was not considered famous, had actually offered such a high price. How could they believe it? Based on the endorsement fee alone, Polar Light was already Yenzhou's #1 virtual idol. Even if he did not have enough works, did not have enough background, and did not have as many fans as the other 2 popular virtual idols, who asked Polar Light to be so lucky? Who asked the person behind him to be so capable? He had started making big news upon his debut, and was now a hot topic. But 4 Elephants had really spent so much money to get Polar Light to endorse? Were they an idiot? For Elephant's Yenzhou representative immediately jumped out. Sorry, I am the idiot you are all talking about. Even though people said that, more people admired 4 Elephants for grasping the opportunity and leeching off the popularity of Battle of the Century. There was still some time before the release of Battle of the Century, the game that was the focus of the world's attention, so people started to think about it. Silverwing and Fiery Bird had joined forces to promote Polar Light. Now, anyone in Yenzhou who went online or went out would have an impression of Polar Light. This was also the reason for the sudden increase in sales of 4 Elephants in Yenzhou. As for the 4 Elephants brand, it had leaped from some brand in Muzhou to a well-known brand. Fang Zhao did not understand the sales market, but he could understand the changes from what he saw and heard on a daily basis. People in the virtual idol department had been standing tall recently. Every time they went out, they would receive many envious looks and compliments. 1 endorsement is 10 million. 10 endorsements would be 100 million. 20 endorsements would be 200 million. As Zhuwen counted, he felt his mind getting more and more confused. Are we going to be rich? They didn't have that much money, but overtime pay and bonuses would increase, right? I sent it a long time ago. Song Miao rolled her eyes at him. Didn't you check your account? I really don't have any. Zhuwen, who was nestled on the sofa in the department hall, changed his position and checked the funds in his account. Hiss. After a sharp intake of breath, Zui held his head with both hands as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. This. Their salaries were already considered to be rather high in the company, and they also received quite a bit of overtime. Most importantly, there was still the bonus. Looking at the number of zeros at the end, Zhuwen once again deeply felt that his choice to be lazy and stay in the virtual projects department was the right one. This is all because of boss's good leadership. Flattery was a must. Without Fang Zhao's approval, would they have received so much overtime pay and bonuses? If it were other leaders who liked to deduct their employees' wages, they would not be treated so well. The others in the department nodded in agreement. Ever since Fang Zhao had arrived, Silverwing's virtual projects department had been on the rise. They didn't know what would happen in the future, but they knew that as long as they followed Fang Zhao, their future would be limitless. Didn't you see how one trip to Muzhou had brought in a 10 million endorsement? Even the dog's value had risen. Speaking of Muzhou, boss, when can we go to Muzhou to watch the finals? Zhuwen asked. This was the second time he had brought it up since Fang Zhao had returned. The others in the department also looked at Fang Zhao with anticipation. During the most intense period of publicity, they had all worked overtime to complete the assigned tasks. Now, the workload wasn't that heavy, and there were other departments to share the workload, so they were more relaxed. I will mention it to the boss. Today, we have another batch of assignments. You all can settle the matters at hand first. Fang Zhao tidied up his things. After work, you were free to make your own arrangements. Got it. Although that was the reply, no one left. Working hours and after-work hours didn't affect them much. What they wanted to do now was to complete all the work at hand so that they could relax and go out to play. After leaving the company, Fang Zhao went to Xue Jing's residence. Xue Jing had already returned to Yinzhou to rest. Previously, after the global lecture tour, Fang Zhao had hurriedly left because he had matters to attend to in Muzhou and Xue Jing had many meetings to attend. Now that he was back, Fang Zhao had to thank this old man. After all, it was Xue Jing who had given him this chance. If it had been anyone else, they might not have put in so much effort. As Fang Zhao's driver and bodyguard, Zuyu naturally tagged along. Xue Jing was very happy about Fang Zhao's arrival. I was just talking about you, and here you are. Have you eaten dinner? Yes, I have. Young people have big appetites. Come, accompany this old man for a meal. Xue Jing beckoned Fang Zhao over. Fang Zhao was astonished to discover that Xue Jing had a guest. It was Fiery Bird Sound Effects Department Head, Huali, whom he had contacted before. Old Xue can be considered my teacher. We have always been in contact. Today, I came to visit some old friends in Yinzhou and also dropped by to visit old Xue. I didn't expect to run into you, Huali said. Xue Jing was very happy today. Probably because he had drunk a little. He was especially talkative. The assistant didn't let Xue Jing drink too much, but this small amount was enough to arouse Xue Jing's spirits. I also didn't expect that at my age, I would take on a book editing assignment that no one would want to take on, and it would lead to another wave of learning craze. I heard that many colleges and universities have added related courses. Yesterday, I received a call from a few former students saying that their chance had come again. Xue Jing spoke energetically. Fang Zhao and Huali listened at the side, occasionally responding. However, Xue Jing was getting on in years. Even though he was in high spirits, he couldn't talk for too long. Soon, he got tired and fell asleep. Fang Zhao and Huali moved Xue Jing back to his room. After tidying up the place, Fang Zhao and Huali left. Because Huali had come from Huangzhou, he didn't fly his own flying transport or bring anyone else. Fang Zhao let Zuyu drive Huali to his hotel first. When they were almost at the hotel, Huali asked, "Are you busy? Why don't we have another drink?" Fang Zhao guessed that Huali had something else to say, but it wasn't convenient to mention it in front of Xue Jing, so he agreed. Huali chose a restaurant near the hotel. He knew the boss there. Zuyu also found a chair outside and sat down. He didn't go in to listen. There were some things I didn't say at old Xue's. Fang Zhao. Huali put away the smile on his face. Have you considered your future? Fang Zhao was a little surprised by Huali's sudden question. What do you mean? Do you intend to stay at Silver Wing forever? I won't hide it from you. When I was at old Xue's place, the old man told me that he hoped that you could put all your efforts into music and not bother with Silver Wing's virtual reality projects and the like. But Huali's tone changed. I actually hope that you can come into contact with more things and experience more. Only then will you have inspiration and create better works. Fang Zhao swirled the cup in his hand and didn't say anything, waiting for the rest of the sentence. Huali glanced at Fang Zhao. This kid was still the same. He couldn't see any reaction to his words. He paused and continued. If you feel that your limitations are too big, you can study at Huangzhou Music Academy whenever you have free time. The advanced classes there are better than those at Qi, an academy of music. You can learn more there. There are many people globally who are adept at combining symphonic and electronic music styles. You can learn from their strengths and make up for your shortcomings. Getting to know more people will be good for your future. Study? Fang Zhao knew from his memory that there was indeed an advanced class at Huangzhou Music Academy organized by the International Music Association. Many great masters of the music industry had studied there. It was a gilded process, and you could get to know many people in the industry and expand your network. Those who could go there were top talents from all over the world. Given your current works and the combined recommendation of Ming Tsang and Old Xue, you can definitely get into the youth advanced classes there, Huali said. You've been there too? Fang Zhao asked. I've been there. My company recommended me. I'm not a creative talent. My strength lies in my hearing. I was recruited to Fiery Bird very early on and was arranged to further my studies. After I returned, I was promoted to deputy team leader within 2 years. After that, I was promoted to team leader, and I've been there ever since. Huali hadn't composed in a long time. I was in the same batch as Ming Tsang in the advanced classes, but because of his son, Ming Tsang's career was delayed for more than 10 years. Of course, this is just my suggestion as a senior in the industry. It's fine if you don't want to go. You can even switch careers in the future. I know many people who switch careers from music production to the film and television industry because it's easier to gain popularity, earn more money, and have a higher reputation. The memories of the internet can be very long, so long that they can still remember us after we're dead. It can also be very short, so short that one moment you're popular all over the world, the next moment you're forgotten. Especially for people like you who compose behind the scenes, it's even easier to forget. Back then, I also took the route of signing a contract with a company. After that, I focused on composing. Later on, when I became famous, I left the company and started on my own. Later on, I wasn't satisfied with my fame, and my physical condition wasn't bad, so I switched to the film and television industry and became a movie star. I didn't expect that I would do so well, acting and singing. But not everyone can take that route. His talent in acting doesn't lose out to his composing. As he spoke, Huali glanced at Feng Zhao and shook his head. But you can't do it. You're like me. You look passable but not outstanding enough. Feng Zhao, furthermore, you're not suited for the film and television industry. I can tell just by looking at you. You're too calm, your emotions don't fluctuate much, and your expressions aren't rich enough. Compared to those drama buffs, you'll be crushed. In terms of acting talent, you can't even compare to me. Feng Zhao, Huali laughed heartily. Actually, after saying so much, I came looking for you today to help someone pass on a message. As he spoke, Huali fished out 10 business cards from his pocket and spread them out in a fan shape in front of Feng Zhao. I brought these for a few friends and classmates. They said that if you ever want to leave Silverwing and Yinzhou, you can consider them. Some of these people have their own companies, while others have established private studios. They have a bit of fame and specialize in producing music for blockbusters and large-scale video games. They have more money and more freedom. Therefore, Huali had come looking for Feng Zhao alone today to help someone poach him. Before leaving, Huali, acting as a senior in the industry, told Feng Zhao seriously, "You might not know, but there are a few young musicians in their teens in Huangzhou who are preparing to embark on a global lecture tour. They come from musical families and studied at top music schools since young. Their talent is astonishing, and they have already won quite a few professional awards. Those old fellows at the top have a higher opinion of them. There's also a 7-year-old kid in Lajou who has set up an orchestra and is acting as a conductor. Yesterday, he announced the details of the concert season. In the new era, the path of music is actually not wide. There are many competitors, and a batch of geniuses appear every year. Don't look at how those companies are treating you very well because of the polar light incident. Many are still vying to rope you in, but one day, your inspiration will dry up and you won't be able to create any stunning works. When you encounter certain situations where your talent is limited, you will be surpassed by those who come after you. There will also be a huge gap in the treatment you receive. There are many examples of young geniuses meeting miserable endings. From the perspective of reality, I hope that you can do something that interests you. The world is very big, so you should see more and experience more new things. Although I don't compose anymore, I know one thing. Inspiration will frequently visit you when you are emotionally active. Don't be limited by music, and don't hate it." After he finished speaking, Huali glanced at Feng Zhao. Seeing that Feng Zhao was seriously pondering something, he asked, "Do you have any other questions? When will the game consoles be delivered?" Feng Zhao asked. Chapter 106. This year, the upgraded version of the 9th generation, Challenger, and the 10th generation Rhapsody will be released together. However, the 10th generation is a limited edition. There are only 100 units sold to the public worldwide. Yours is 1% of that number. If you don't want to play it, you can sell it to someone else. Wait for the price to soar before selling it. The 10th generation Rhapsody is a little special. People like you probably won't be used to it. Huali left after leaving. He looked rather gloomy, probably because he had not expected Feng Zhao to be different from the other juniors in the industry. He had not been able to show off the pretentiousness of a senior in the industry. Feng Zhao was grateful for what Huali had said, and he knew what Huali meant. Huali had said so much to tell Feng Zhao that, firstly, he should not be blinded by his reputation. Most of his current fame was due to Polar Light. It was the combined efforts of Fiery Bird and Silver Wing. It was Polar Light who had exploded in popularity overnight. The main reason was not Feng Zhao. Huali wanted Feng Zhao to look at the current situation calmly and not be too complacent. Second, don't lose yourself in thinking about your future path. But Huali was overthinking. Feng Zhao was very clear-headed. He was not really in his early 20s. His mental age was much older than Huali and Mingcong. When he left the restaurant, Feng Zhao paused and looked in a certain direction. "Boss, it seems like someone is watching us, but they are not close. Zhuyu had noticed long ago, but the other party was a little far away, and he had to stay here. Feng Zhao's safety was his top priority. No worries, it's nothing important. Go back." "Yes," Zhuyu replied. However, Zhuyu did not understand how Feng Zhao could discover the person taking photos and pinpoint their location. How had Feng Zhao sensed it? Could it be that public figures all had extraordinary intuition and keen perception? Zhuyu had heard from a few bodyguard friends that some big stars were like this. When they sensed the location of the person taking photos, they would pretend they did not know and then put on their best pose. That night, a few pieces of news appeared online. Polar Light project producer Feng Zhao meets Mystery Man tonight. Mystery Man's identity revealed. Shocking. The virtual idol, Polar Light, had a strong presence recently. While the public paid attention to virtual idols, they also paid attention to the team behind them. Therefore, when they saw the words Polar Light project producer, they were curious. This was the lead figure in the project, and one could even say that the virtual idol, Polar Light, was created by him. Such a person was naturally someone that everyone would pay attention to. Those who stayed up late at night rushed in with a burning desire for gossip. After seeing the content, they almost spat out a mouthful of blood. I thought he was involved with some female celebrity, but when I clicked on it, I realized that I had been tricked. But very quickly, other people started discussing. Why was Feng Zhao and Fiery Bird's Huali having a meal together? Could it be that Fiery Bird had poached Feng Zhao? Recently, there had indeed been a lot of rumors. Some music studios and entertainment companies had been eyeing Feng Zhao, wanting to poach him, but there had been no progress. Now that Feng Zhao was suddenly photographed with someone from Fiery Bird and Huali's previous high evaluation of Feng Zhao was trying to poach from Silver Wing. Very quickly, some news about Feng Zhao jumping ship started to spread. The next day, when Duan Xinji saw the news about Polar Light project producer Feng Zhao jumping ship, her face turned green. She was so angry that she almost smashed her communications device. "Bullshit." Her assistant consoled her. "Boss, those small media outlets love to make wild guesses to attract the public's attention. Don't worry too much." Duan Xinji did not utter a word. Although Feng Zhao had already signed a contract with Silver Wing and there was a time limit, if Feng Zhao really breached the contract, it was not like he could not afford to pay the penalty fee. If Fiery Bird really wanted to poach Feng Zhao, the penalty fee was really nothing to Fiery Bird. One could not blame Duan Xinji for being suspicious. It was rare for Silver Wing to have a successful virtual idol. Now was not the time for anything to go wrong. Feng Zhao was the only pillar supporting the virtual projects department. If this pillar was removed, Duan Xinji believed that Silver Wing's virtual projects department would quickly return to its old state. Even if they recruited a few more professional masters, she had no confidence that they could create a second Polar Light. The right time, the right place, and the right people had all appeared at the same time to create the ubiquitous Polar Light in Yenzhou. Would they have the same luck and ability next time? Furthermore, the employees of the virtual projects department only recognized Feng Zhao. If Feng Zhao left, they would also leave. If Feng Zhao jumped ship, those few core employees would most likely jump ship as well. It was equivalent to digging out the heart of the virtual projects department. The employees were secondary. The most important thing was still Feng Zhao. Before they found someone who could replace Feng Zhao, they really did not dare let him go. Other companies were fine, but Fiery Bird? That was a place many people racked their brains to squeeze into. Fang Zhao definitely had the same thoughts. Furthermore, once he entered Fiery Bird, as long as he was not a lazy person and had the ability, he would not have to worry about his future. She recalled that Fang Zhao had indeed been in frequent contact with people from Fiery Bird. Could it be that it was, as those people had guessed, that Fang Zhao had the intention of jumping ship? She felt that she could see through young people this age with one look, but Fang Zhao was an exception. Until now, she had not been able to understand Fang Zhao as a person. Duan Xianji had a solemn expression on her face as she drummed her fingers on the table. At this moment, the secretary beside her received a message and had a strange expression on her face. "Boss, Fang Zhao is asking if you are around. He says he has something to discuss with you." Duan Xianji's fingers that were drumming on the table trembled. She was silent for 2 seconds before saying, "Let him in." When Fang Zhao entered, he realized that the atmosphere in Duan Xianji's office was not right. It was not just Duan Xianji. Her assistant and secretary were also sizing him up, as if they were guessing at something. Seeing Fang Zhao, Duan Xianji revealed a faint smile and slowly asked, "What is it again?" "Applying for a vacation." "Another vacation? How long have you been back? Your department doesn't have much work these days. Most of the work is handled by the publicity and marketing departments. If you are unable to concentrate on composing, you can compose at home. If you really have no inspiration, going out for a walk is not out of the question," Duan Xianji said slowly. "I am not applying for a personal vacation. I am applying for a vacation for the entire department." "A few days of vacation? What are you going to do?" "A week. I have seen the arrangements made by the publicity department. Our department doesn't have much work, so we can take the vacation to Muzhou to watch the sheep herding competition." Duan Xianji felt a little more at ease. She checked the recent arrangements and said, "Let me check first before I get back to you." "All right, I will submit a detailed electronic application in a bit." Duan Xianji nodded and stared at Fang Zhao, observing his expression for the slightest change. She asked, "Yesterday, did you meet with Fiery Bird sound effects team leader, Huali? Quite a number of people are guessing that you will be poached to Fiery Bird." She did not beat around the bush and asked directly. "Last night, when I went to old Shue's place, Huali was there too. After that, we found a place to have a few drinks." Fang Zhao knew what Duan Xianji was worried about. "Don't worry. As long as Silver Wing does not breach its contract, I won't either." Receiving Fang Zhao's confirmation, Duan Xianji heaved a sigh of relief. When she had seen Fang Zhao's application, she had happily approved it. She had even asked Fang Zhao if he needed another flying transport. Just as Duan Xianji had said, when it came to talents, she was always willing to part with them. One flying transport was enough, and there were not many core employees in the department, so one flying transport was enough. Fang Zhao did not apply for another. When it was time to knock off in the afternoon, Fang Zhao gathered everyone in the department for a meeting. One reason was to inquire about the progress of work and whether the tasks at hand had been completed. After confirming that everyone had completed their tasks, he told them about going to Muzhou to watch the competition. The people in the virtual projects department were overjoyed. After Fang Zhao left, they all left the office, which was a rare occasion. They did not even play games and went home to pack their luggage. The technical geeks in the various departments in the company had a chat group. Recently, Zhu Wan and a few others had been in the limelight. Everyone knew that the virtual projects department had become rich. In the past, they had been unwilling to join even if they were beaten to death. Now, they could not even enter even if they wanted to in less than a year. Zhu Wan sent a voice message to the technical geek group. "Our department boss wants to bring us along to show off and fly. Goodbye, everyone. Don't miss me too much. Muzhou's blue sky, white clouds, and vast grassland. Here I come." The originally calm group suddenly exploded. "Scram! Your father is still working overtime." "How cheap. Your father is also working overtime. My overtime pay is not even a third of what your virtual projects department gets." "Hold on. Zhu Wan, are you going to Muzhou to watch the sheep herding competition?" "Zhu Wan, I won't scold you. I just want you to bring back some Muzhou specialties. Zhu Wan, you have to take good care of that golden dog in your department. Don't let it get stolen midway. I haven't seen it with my own eyes. You have to bring it back safe and sound. I want to touch it. News of Curly Hair's 50 million net worth had already spread throughout the department. So many people in Silver Wing had given Curly Hair the codename Golden Dog. Although it was not golden fur, this nickname was just to show how expensive this dog was. Zhuan flirted with the group and was in a better mood. Growing up, he had only been to Muzhou once during a school trip. However, there had been too many restrictions back then, so he had not been able to watch the sheep herding competition. He had returned after breathing in the Muzhou air. 2 days later, the core staff of the Virtual Projects Department gathered and headed for Muzhou. Muzhou's sheep herding competition was an annual event in Muzhou. It also attracted many people from other continents to watch. Fang Zhao brought the people from the department to Shanmu Farm first. Then, on the day of the competition, he, Wu Yi, Su Ho, and the others went to the competition venue on the outskirts of Qingqing City. The parking lot was a distance away from the competition venue. When Fang Zhao and the others arrived, they realized that many people had already arrived. Nearly half of the flying transports were from other continents. There are quite a number of foreigners today. You guys have to be more vigilant, Wu Yi said. Because there were so many people today and their backgrounds were too diverse, the security checks had been raised by several levels. As he walked out of the parking lot, Fang Zhao saw some police officers standing guard at the entrance of the parking lot with dogs wearing the same uniforms. The police officers had probably been carefully selected. Their eyes, which were sharper than an eagle's, scanned every person who came to the arena, looking for anything suspicious. The police dog beside them was sticking out its tongue and panting from the heat. It looked casual, but its eyes were also observing its surroundings, and its ears were pricked up to catch sounds that were difficult for the human ear to hear. Every year at this time, the security checks at Qingqing's sheep herding competition are the most stringent. Wu Yi explained to Fang Zhao and the others, to prevent those who encountered such a situation for the first time from getting nervous. Actually, it is not just here at the competition venue. The entire Muzhou has strict security checks, so we call the day of the competition Most Stringent Security Check Day. If you guys notice any suspicious characters from the police or the police dog, you must avoid them as soon as possible to prevent accidental injuries. After Wu Yi finished speaking, he heard Fang Zhao say, "I feel like we are being watched." Ha, how could? Wu Yi's words came to an abrupt halt as he realized that a police officer was staring at them. The police dog beside the police officer had already retracted its tongue and was also staring at them. As a dog owner, Wu Yi knew all too well what the police dog's gaze meant. It was suspicion and vigilance. The next moment, it would bark. Chapter 107. Originally, many people coming out of the parking lot had wanted to come over and say hello. Those who knew them came over to chat, and those who did not came over to satisfy their curiosity. Other than that, there were also some media outlets lying in wait, hoping to get first-hand news that Dongshan Farm was being closely watched. But following the barking of the police dog, the people who had been rushing over suddenly stopped in their tracks. They looked at Fang Zhao and his group, then at the police dog barking in Fang Zhao's direction. Their footsteps changed, as if avoiding the plague, and they scattered with a whoosh. The other people who had come out behind Fang Zhao also retreated back into the parking lot. The previously crowded exit emptied out in an instant, forming an empty circle around Fang Zhao's group. But those people did not go far and just watched from a distance. People were curious, and they wanted to see what was going on. Could it be that someone had brought a bomb? Or was there something else? Especially those young people who had come to Muzhou for the first time, they were nervous and excited. The media outlets were practically on steroids, staring closely at the scene. Woof, woof, woof. The barking police dog pulled its leash taut. If not for the police officer beside it holding on tightly, it might have charged over. The police officer tightened his grip on the dog's leash and said something. He was probably explaining the situation through a micro-communication device. When the police dog barked, more than a dozen policemen quickly walked over, and behind them were people from the special forces. What's going on? This was the first time Zhuan and the others had encountered such a situation. They were suddenly scared stiff. He was just an ordinary citizen, and this was the first time he had come to watch a sheep herding competition. He was completely dumbfounded. He was practically scared to tears. They had just thought that with the strict security checks and tight security, they would be at ease if safety was guaranteed. Who would have thought that something like this would happen? I also don't know. Peng Pusong swallowed his saliva. He had not been this nervous even during his most difficult interview. Now, he was so scared that he could not even make a sound. Fang Zhao did not understand either. Having experienced being watched a few times at the cemetery, he had learned how to put on a facade in front of these sharp-eyed people. The background music in his head was still cheerful, and his aura was different from when he had been at the cemetery. There should not have been a situation that would make these people tense up. Zuoyu, who was at Fang Zhao's side, didn't show it on his face, but in his heart, he was suspicious. Could it be that his gun had been discovered? That shouldn't be the case. It was not just Fang Zhao and the others. Wu Yi and Su Ho were also dumbfounded. They had participated in so many competitions and had gone through so many security checks. Even if the checks this time were stricter, it was unlikely that something like this would happen. What happened? As the oldest person here, Wu Yi asked in a trembling voice. The policeman who walked over swept his hawk-like gaze over them, causing Wu Yi to shiver again. Please accept the security check again. Please cooperate, the policeman said expressionlessly. After he finished speaking, without waiting for Fang Zhao and the others to agree, he waved his hand, and the people who had already brought along the inspection equipment came over. The Special Forces team also approached. There was nothing wrong with checking them again. Their identification was also checked. When they came out, they had already gone through the first round of checks. They were not allowed to bring guns, ammunition, or other dangerous items. Nothing could be found even if they checked again. After looking at Zuoyu's identity card, the person in charge of the inspection looked at him a few times. Zuoyu smiled back. Captain, everything is normal. The person in charge of the inspection said to the person with the dog. The policeman with the dog looked at the other people in charge of the inspection, only to see them all shake their heads, indicating that they had not found anything unusual. The policeman frowned and did not understand. The leash in his hand was tugged once again. The police dog he was leading, as well as the other two police dogs that had come over, all looked a little irritated. Their gazes kept sweeping around, as if they were looking for something. His heart skipped a beat, and he walked the dog in a circle around them. Woof, 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 woof. The police dog barked again, this time even more ferociously than before. Besides the police dog that had started barking, the other two were also barking. Watching the ferocious barking of the police dogs, Zhu Wen stared at the leashes on them. He was really worried that the leashes would break. The policeman's body trembled violently. His sharp gaze carried a chill. He pointed at the car beside them and said to Fang Zhao and the others, "Open it. You guys want to go up and check this car?" Wu Yi could not hold it in any longer and rushed over to stop them. Inside are the shepherd dogs that will be competing this time, as well as our team's veterinarians. After the contestants disembarked from the aircraft, a special car would be sent over. This car wasn't for people, but for the contestants. In order to prevent the shepherd dogs from being disturbed by the spectators, or from being framed by undetectable means, the organizers would send out a special car after the contestants arrived and place the dogs inside. Besides the dogs, there was also a team of veterinarians to take care of them. The car was soundproof, so the sounds outside could not affect the people inside. No matter how noisy it was outside, the people inside could not hear it. However, the people in the car could see the situation outside, but without Wu Yi's permission, they did not get out of the car. This has already been inspected, and there are people from the organizers standing guard inside. There are no dangerous items at all. Wu Yi did not want the police to go up and check. The dogs had already been adjusted to their best condition. If they were frightened by the police and the police dogs, it could seriously affect the competition. Police dogs and shepherd dogs were like a soldier that had undergone strict training and a normal athlete. How could they be the same? He had waited for so many years and was lucky enough to make it to the finals. How could he be willing to let something happen at this crucial moment? Despite the police's pressuring gaze, Wu Yi was unwilling to give way. Seeing that the police were about to force their way in, Fang Zhao said, "There is no need to go up and check." He then told Wu Yi, "Go and bring curly hair out." Remember to leash him. Ah, Fang Zhao, curly hair is the core of our team. Wu Yi was unwilling. What if he was frightened when he was brought out? He would not be able to run when he entered the competition. Don't worry, it will be fine. Go and bring him out. Remember to leash him, Fang Zhao emphasized. Oh, Wu Yi reluctantly walked to the side of the car and prepared to open the door to enter. However, under the watchful gazes of over 10 pairs of eyes, the solemn atmosphere, and the pressure, Wu Yi's legs turned to jelly and he stumbled. If not for Suho's support, he would have fallen. All right, Wu Yi, you stand at the side with them. I will go up. Fang Zhao opened the car door and entered, then quickly closed it again. The car doors were at the back of the car. There were 2 doors, and between the 2 doors was a buffer zone. Only the outermost door was opened, so no sound could be heard from inside the car. After a while, the outermost door opened once again. This time, the door had only opened a small gap when the 3 police dogs started barking crazily. They wanted to break free from their leashes and rush over. One police officer could not hold them back. 2 or 3 people were needed. Wu Yi saw a few people from the Special Forces team raise their guns. They were probably ready to open fire at any time. Although these farm owners had also applied for guns, they rarely used them. The guns used by these people were also different. Of course, the most important thing was still their imposing manner. Seeing them like this, Wu Yi was really worried that the hands of these police officers would shake and open fire. The atmosphere at the scene was especially tense. Zuan felt that, based on the situations he had seen in the movies, the next moment would be a gunfight. But what did they have that was worth the police being so guarded against? Zhu Wan and the others had endless guesses in their minds. They were so nervous that they forgot to breathe. The outer car door opened wider and wider. More than 10 gun muzzles were pointed in that direction. Then, everyone who was on high alert saw Fang Zhao holding the dog leash with one hand, and the curly-haired dog at his feet wearing Dongshan Farms competition uniform. However, the atmosphere did not ease. As Fang Zhao led the dog down from the car, the people from the Special Forces team were on high alert, ready to open fire at any time. They did not care if you were a contestant or a dog. As long as you threatened the lives of others and the safety of the competition venue, you would be shot. This had always been the rule. Fang Zhao led the dog a few steps forward. With one hand on the leash, he raised his other hand, indicating that he did not have any lethal weapons in his hands. He even led Curly Hair away from the dog car for about 10 meters. The 3 police dogs also moved, still barking crazily and emitting low growls from their throats. Everyone present could see that the 3 police dogs did not sense the threat from the dog car, but from Fang Zhao's side. However, there was only one person and a small dog. That curly-haired dog was rather gutsy. It stood up and barked at the 3 police dogs. Woof woof, woof woof woof, woof woof woof, 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 woof. Zuan asked Wu Yi, who seemed to be the most experienced, in a low voice, "Are they communicating in dog language? I see that they have broken sentences when they bark." Wu Yi looked at Zhu Wan as if he was an idiot. Every dog has its own barking habits. Then, he pondered deeply. From my experience, they should be quarreling. As long as you are not blind, you can tell. If he was not being led, there would probably be a fight. Does Curly Hair want to take on 3 at once? Not bad. He is not weak at all. Zuan had forgotten to be afraid. The scene in front of him was too comical. On one side, Fang Zhao was holding little Curly Hair with one hand and standing there calmly. On the other side, there were 7 or 8 policemen holding the 3 police dogs, all on high alert. Anyone with a little knowledge of dogs could tell that the 3 police dogs were not targeting anyone else, not the dog car, not Fang Zhao with the dogs, but Curly Hair. The security personnel used their tools to scan the area and found nothing. After that, besides the 4 dogs barking at Curly Hair, everyone else was strangely silent, including the Special Forces team that had been on high alert. Not far away, there were other dogs that had heard the commotion and started barking. Some were police dogs, while others were dogs brought by spectators. This situation continued for close to 2 minutes. The Special Forces team could not bear to watch any longer. So it was a matter between dogs. This was fucking embarrassing. Fang Zhao pointed at Curly Hair, who was barking at the 3 police dogs, and asked the policeman in front of him, "Does this count as carrying a dangerous item?" Cough, probably not, right? The policeman looked at the captain, who had a stiff expression, and waited for instructions. No. The captain forced a smile and said to Fang Zhao and the others, "Sorry, it was a misunderstanding." Chapter 108. After confirming that it was a misunderstanding, Zhu Wan and the others heaved a sigh of relief. They had been worried that they would be caught in a life-threatening plot on their first match. "You scared me to death just now. Didn't you see that team of people with guns over there? They almost opened fire. It was so scary." Wan Yu held Zheng Huang's arm. She hadn't completely recovered from the nervousness just now. Zhuan said, "You might not believe it, but I had no fear at all. I even wanted to laugh." Song Miao ruthlessly attacked from the side. "I don't believe it. You were so scared your face was white, and your legs were shaking. Anyway, it's good that nothing happened. Sigh, I really don't know how those people suspected us of carrying dangerous items. Just a little curly-haired dog?" Wu Yi was very unhappy. Those people had almost brought guns to scare his beloved competition dog. If they had been frightened, they could forget about continuing with today's competition. Curly Hair had already been placed back in the car. As they walked from the parking lot to the competition venue, they attracted many curious gazes. But why did those police dogs target Curly Hair? Zhu Wen still did not understand. Also, those sophisticated security equipment did not sound their alarms. Why did they surround the police dog when it barked? In your Muzhou, are police dogs more powerful than security equipment? Wu Yi shook his head. The police dogs that have been brought here have all received the most rigorous training. Those that are able to appear here are the best dogs that have been carefully selected. In fact, many times, some people can use evasive measures to avoid the security equipment and bring in dangerous items. However, the police dogs that have been selected can rely on their extraordinary intuition to find dangerous people. You know about the cemetery guards, right? The people who were sent to guard the cemetery every year were people with very strong intuition. The dogs that were selected to be in charge of the security check were also similar. As for why they targeted Curly Hair, I really don't understand. Maybe because Curly Hair's fighting ability is very strong? Ha 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 ha. Zhuan could not help but laugh when he heard this. Wu Yi and Suho glanced at him and did not find it funny. They said seriously, his fighting ability is really strong. Since coming to Muzhou, he has never lost a fight. However, shepherd dogs and police dogs were different. After all, forget about the other shepherd dogs. Why did the police dogs have such a strong reaction when they were separated by the dog cart? It was as if he had discovered something extremely dangerous. Thinking of this, a glint flashed in Wu Yi's eyes. Not only was he not afraid because of this, but he was also excited. Kings are always different. He felt that his chances of winning in the finals were even greater. Zhu Wei. Sorry, he really wanted to laugh. After Fang Zhao and the others left, the police officers at the airport entrance were also depressed, but they did not blame or reprimand the 3 police dogs. "Is that the dog that came to Muzhou to pick a fight?" a police officer asked his colleague. "That's it. I suddenly understand why the sheep at Dongshan Farm run so fast as if they're running for their lives when the dogs are hurting them. Yes, I think I understand." The man who was addressed as team leader looked in the direction Fang Zhao and his party had left and said, "Be careful if you encounter that dog in the future. Don't let your guard down, and you'll be torn apart." Some dogs just couldn't be judged by their appearance, and they were talented. No matter how small a dog was, it still had the genes of a dog that had survived the apocalypse. And every dog that had survived the apocalypse was not to be underestimated. Small dogs were rare among service dogs, but every one of them had astonishing abilities. Because of their work, they had come into contact with many special breeds of military dogs, so they would not belittle any seemingly harmless small dog. That little Curly Hair should have some of the blood of a service dog, right? That's the stuff of a military dog. It's a pity it was released to herd sheep. Military dogs and police dogs received different training from shepherd dogs. After training, the former were not suitable for herding sheep, and the latter were not suitable for military operations. It's a pity such a good dog. Not only was it raised by foreigners, it was even trained as a shepherd dog, a police officer sighed. After a moment of silence, someone suddenly asked, "Have you guys placed your bets?" The others raised their heads, their gazes intense. There were no rules that prohibited police officers from placing bets. They just couldn't watch the competition and had to stand guard. "Which one are you guys buying?" "Nonsense. Do you even need to ask?" Of course, they would buy whichever one they felt was the most dangerous. The crowd that had parked near the airport to watch the commotion had been held back by the competition venue staff, so they had not been able to see the situation clearly. All they had heard was the barking of the dogs and thought something big was going to happen. Who knew that after a while, everything would calm down as if nothing had happened. A staff member said to the curious onlookers, "Don't look, it's just a misunderstanding." "Hey, you guys are blocking the road." An arrogant voice rang out. The competition venue staff turned around and saw that the person who had spoken was a young man who had just come out of the airport. He was wearing green sunglasses that looked like flies, and the lower half of his face that was not covered had an undisguised arrogance. This young man had assistants and bodyguards by his side, so he was probably some rich young master. But there were too many people like this today, so no one felt anything special. What attracted everyone's attention was the fat dog that the young man was holding. This one dog could probably hold two dogs of the same height, right? Seeing everyone staring at his beloved dog, the young man was even more pleased. He raised his chin and said, "How is it? Is it well fed?" This is the descendant of the most valuable competition dog from the team that won the sheep herding competition 2 years ago. It has the bloodline of a champion dog. The faces of the surrounding Mujo people twitched violently. "So pleased, my ass. Do you really know how to raise a dog? What a waste of such a good bloodline." A waste, a complete waste. The people of Mujo were heartbroken. They rarely sold the descendants of outstanding sheep-herding dogs to foreigners to prevent this kind of self-righteous way of raising dogs. No matter how good a dog was, it would be raised to be useless. With such good innate qualities, what else could it do if it was raised to look like a pig? It seemed like all it could do was act cute. Facing the angry gazes from all around, the smile on the young man's face widened. He felt that people were jealous that he had raised the dog well, so he ignored the people around him. "Let's go, my little angel. This time, I'll pick a satisfactory companion for you. An MHM, this year's most valuable competition dog." After the arrogant young man left with his group of bodyguards, someone in the crowd asked, "Who was that arrogant kid just now? He actually had designs on this year's most valuable competition dog?" "I don't know. Who knows? Is there anyone from another continent? He's not from Tongzhou. He's not from Jinzhou either. Our Jizhou doesn't have such an idiot." A reporter from Liizhou pursed his lips and stealthily retreated. He then sent a message to his colleague. "Senior Master Zero has just attracted a wave of hatred." Fang Zhao and his entourage split up when they entered the venue. Wu Yi led the team to the pre-match examination, while Fang Zhao led Zhu Wan and the others to the viewing hall. They had arrived early because the competing dogs had to go through a few rounds of examinations after arriving at the venue. From blood to fur, from physical to biochemical, everything had to be checked inside and out to prevent cheating. Of course, Wu Yi and Su Ho had to accompany them, especially Su Ho, who was the instructor, to prevent them from using illegal drugs. Thus, they had arrived early and needed time to rest after the examination to ensure that they were in peak condition for the competition. After Fang Zhao and his entourage entered the viewing hall, they found an extended grandstand. Before the competition, it was open air. Only when the competition started would it be closed. Wow, is this the fabled VIP viewing hall? Zuan looked at the various decorations in the hall and used his professional eye to analyze the audio and video. Finally, he came to a conclusion. How fucking rich. Fang Zhao stood on the open-air grandstand and pointed in a direction. This is not the VIP viewing hall. This is the viewing hall for the participating teams. The VIP viewing hall is over there. Fuck, I think I see a big star. I think it's the famous one from Huangzhou. Rodney exclaimed. Where? There. Oh, It really is. Good thing I brought binoculars. Wait, next to that big star, there seems to be another big star. Is it from Lajou or Jinzhou? No, there are so many. I see a few more. They are all standing on the open-air grandstand of the viewing hall. Every year, the Muzhou sheep-herding finals attract a bunch of stars and other important people from all walks of life. They all come, but they might not necessarily appear on the open-air grandstand, Song Miao said calmly as she stretched her neck to look through her binoculars. As the viewing hall for the participating teams, it naturally had the best view. From here, one could see most of the VIP viewing platforms. Wow! Peng Pusong, who was standing on the other side of the open-air grandstand, exclaimed, "What's going on? What's going on? Did you see another big star?" Zhu Wen ran from one side of the grandstand to the other side like a wisp of smoke. Peng Pusong pointed diagonally in front of him, followed by a sharp intake of breath. From the previous open-air grandstand, one could see the situation inside the competition hall, while from the other side, one could see the situation outside the competition hall. It had been close to an hour since Fang Zhao and the others had landed, and at this time, the number of people arriving had increased. Standing on this side of the grandstand, one could see the situation at the parking lot. Many aircrafts and flying cars had already appeared above the airport, densely packed with police flying equipment scattered around. The traffic lights in the air were constantly flashing, directing the aircrafts and flying cars that were queuing up in the air to land at the designated location. Zhu Wen felt goosebumps rising on his arms. This situation, if I didn't know better, I would have thought a war was about to break out. He felt nervous and excited. His blood felt like it was heating up. The screens in the viewing hall continuously showed the arrival of important people, such as world-renowned actors, some idiotic rich young master, the children of wealthy families from various continents, and political figures from other continents who had accepted invitations from the Muzhou government. All these made the media go crazy. Today, there was no need to worry about the news. This is why every year this day is called the strictest security day. Zhu Wen felt that this trip had been worth it. The previous fright was not even worth mentioning. I didn't expect all these people to be interested in the sheep-herding competition, Peng Pusong said in astonishment. Beside him, Song Miao sneered. Do you really think they are interested in the dog competition? They are not interested in the competition. They are interested in the style and the benefits. Especially celebrities, big and small. Most of them were here to make their presence known, and the Muzhou media would not disappoint them. How could they pass up this opportunity to attract attention and let the whole world know that Muzhou's sheep-herding competition was officially starting today? Chapter 109. The main focus of Muzhou's entertainment industry was the sheep-herding competition. There were not many movie stars and even fewer singers, but the people of Muzhou were rich. Every time a major competition started, they would invite world-renowned stars to sing to liven up the atmosphere and raise the reputation of Muzhou's sheep-herding competition. Stars had fans, and fans would watch the live broadcast for their idols. Naturally, they would also know about this annual event. Muzhou's regular sheep-herding competition was not broadcasted live in other continents, but the finals were different. Every year, many popular webcast companies would cooperate with Muzhou organizers. The entertainment circles of the various continents would not stop them. This was a win-win situation. And people watching the live broadcast could also see the images being broadcasted by Muzhou organizers. The focus was definitely on those who could stir up the emotions of the mainstream audience, such as celebrities, descendants of wealthy families, and so on. After the camera made a full circle, the location of the participating teams' viewing halls was shown. When the introduction came to Dongshan Farm's viewing hall, Silverwing's internal staff, who were secretly watching the live broadcast, started cursing. Fuck. It's that bitch Zhu Wen. That's a good spot. We can see quite a few celebrities, right? Envy them. Envy +1. I regret not squeezing in when the requirements for the virtual projects department were so low. Although it was only 2 seconds of footage, they still saw Zhu Wen standing in the stands, posing and showing off. Besides Zhu Wen, there were other members of the virtual projects department. It was just that they were not as conspicuous as Zhu Wen, and some of them could not be seen in full. But Silverwing's people knew, especially those in the tech nerd group, that the entire virtual projects department was probably inside. The best viewing hall, the best seats, and the chance to be broadcast live around the world. And all this was just for their department to take a break. It was simply envy, jealousy, and hatred. Seeing Zuin enjoying himself in Muzhou, while they worked overtime every day at the company, why did so many people want to beat Zuin up? This question was not that difficult to understand. Before Su Ho and the others were done, Su Feng came over with a lot of gifts for Fang Zhao and the others. The Four Elephants brand had made a lot of money in Yinzhou. Although it was a publicity stunt, it was a fact that sales had soared. When he found out that Fang Zhao had brought his department members to watch the competition, Su Feng had specially packed a lot of gift boxes to give his thanks and to further their relationship. They would continue working together in the future. They could watch the competition for free and receive benefits. Although they didn't care about the money, Zuan and the others were still very happy with the treatment. Su Feng and Fang Zhao discussed Four Elephants' recent advertising and performance in Yinzhou. Not long after, Su Ho and Wu Yi brought the vet team and the shepherd dogs over. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Take a photo with the contestants. Zuan went over and took a few photos and videos. He wanted to send them back to show off. Curly Hair was also wagging his tail vigorously. He looked very happy, and the other dogs were the same. They didn't seem to have any pre-competition phobia. Instead, it was Su Ho, the instructor, who was under a lot of pressure. I heard that many people came to the arena to watch the match today, but they were worried that it would affect your condition, so they didn't come. After the match, you might see a few familiar faces, Su Feng said. I know. Su Ho had already been informed of this matter, which was why he was even more nervous. This kind of feeling was similar to the first time he stood on the field, when he was a little nervous, afraid, and self-doubting. Su Ho knew that this was not right, so after chatting with Su Feng for a while, he went into the lounge to recharge. Su Ho had already formed a habit. Before the match, he would take out the Eastern Conference Finals publicity film and listen to the background music a few times until he was full of fighting spirit again. He was still young, and his mental fortitude still needed to be improved. He couldn't compare to those with rich experience, so at this stage, he could only use this method to adjust his mood. Wu had seen Su Ho's situation many times, so he didn't ask. Instead, he went over to Fang Zhao and showed Fang Zhao Curly Hair's test report. This was what Fang Zhao had told him long ago. Fang Zhao had already saved the test report for the regular season and the Eastern Conference Finals. Wu didn't think much of it. Curly Hair was Fang Zhao's dog. It was normal for the owner to want to save a copy of the test report. Fang Zhao saved another copy of today's test report. Like the regular season's test report, apart from a few slightly higher concentrations of heavy metals in Curly Hair's body, there were no other abnormalities. The higher concentrations of heavy metals were also within a reasonable range. Otherwise, Curly Hair wouldn't have passed the pre-competition inspection. Some dogs with wild dog lineages did indeed have such a condition, and it wasn't considered rare. Very quickly, Wu Yi stopped talking to Fang Zhao. He started to get nervous again. The viewing hall was clearly separated from the outside, but the tension and pressure that was different from the regular season made it hard for Wu Yi, who thought he was experienced, to calm down. The finals did not only last one day. There would be many competition days, and every competition would be different. The final points would be accumulated to determine the final order, and the team with the highest points would be the overall champion. Today's first match was actually very similar to the regular season. It was just that there would be more obstacles on the field. The flock of sheep would not stay together after gathering at the start. There was a possibility that they would disperse again after passing through those simulated hills and slopes. The difficulty was much higher than the regular season. And this first match was actually the easiest in the finals. The subsequent matches would get more difficult, and there would be more variables. Thus, every team would want to get a high score today. Only then would they have a guarantee. Because this was the finals, Muzhou officials wanted to attract an audience from all over the world. Thus, the introductions of the various farms before the match were simplified. After the introductions, it was time for the opening ceremony, which was also the segment that viewers from other continents looked forward to the most. But Mujo people were just there to watch the excitement. What they were looking forward to was the next match. After close to an hour of opening ceremony and warm-up, the order of appearance was decided by drawing lots. The person in charge of drawing lots was still Su-ho. This time, he was not at the back. Of the 8 teams, he was the third to appear. Because the field was more restricted, the time required would also increase. Those that could enter the finals were all very capable teams. In this unfamiliar field, the shepherd dogs did not make any serious mistakes. As long as the instructor gave the instruction, they would complete it. The first 2 teams did not make any serious mistakes, and the small mistakes were quickly corrected. This made Zhuan and the others nervous. Seeing that the shepherd dogs of the first 2 teams had performed very well, they had already renewed their original understanding of the intelligence of shepherd dogs. These dogs were much smarter than they had imagined. Because the performances of the first 2 teams were so good, they were worried about their own people. The first 2 teams had used 5.5 minutes, 5 minutes and 29 seconds, and the other 5 minutes and 33 seconds. They were both from the western region, so these results were not bad. Next up was Su-ho and the others. Su-ho and the participating shepherd dogs had already arrived and were ready. I'm so nervous. I used to have no interest in sheep herding competitions, but now my heart is racing, Rodney said. Watching the competition from the field and watching the live broadcast are different. Of course, the most important thing is that your dogs are participating and you guys have placed heavy bets. It's not strange that you are nervous. Everyone feels the same way, Su Feng said. He had been like this when he was a teenager. At that time, his aunt's dog had participated in the competition, and he had placed all his pocket money on it. Although it had not won in the end, the anticipation and nervousness were still fresh in his memory. And as a Mujo native, to be able to see the emotions of so many people from other continents stirred up made him feel proud. Ta, ta, ta. The sound of the timer on the field rang out. With a bang, the flock of sheep entered the field, and the shepherd dogs entered as well. There were still a few loose sheep on the field. They needed to gather the loose sheep and the flock of sheep that had rushed into the field before moving forward. Come on, baby. Pay attention to follow up. Don't run in the wrong position. Very good. Follow the instructions. Curly hair, good job. My little sweetheart. In a moment, all sorts of baby, sweetheart, sweetheart, and other mushy epithets came out. Normally, Zhuan and the others would never have done this, but now they were going crazy with Wui and the others. Seeing Feng Zhao still sitting in his chair and staring at the screen as if he was studying an academic problem, Zhuan shouted, "Hey, boss, don't be so serious. Get up and cheer for them. The field can't hear you shouting here. What's important is the intention. Do you understand? The contestant is Curly Hair, our department's golden dog. If he wins, his value will rise." Zhuan stopped looking at Feng Zhao and stared at the dog gathering the flock of sheep on the screen. This is the first time I've clearly realized that Curly Hair is really smart, Rodney lamented. Shepherd dogs were naturally very intelligent. They knew this from watching previous videos and the performances of the previous 2 teams. However, Curly Hair's performance made them realize that this dog was even smarter than other dogs. Most importantly, he had the aura of a shepherd. Feng Zhao stared at the screen. All his attention was on the little curly-haired dog. Smart? Of course. And it wasn't just ordinary intelligence. Curly Hair's IQ was becoming more and more unlike that of an ordinary dog. Feng Zhao had always known that Curly Hair's learning ability was very strong. When he had first picked him up, he had only had the alertness of a stray dog, but he hadn't been too astonishingly smart. Curly Hair probably knew that staying by Feng Zhao's side would be more stable, and he wouldn't have to worry about food and water, so he stayed and followed Feng Zhao around every day. Later, after Feng Zhao had brought him to the company, Curly Hair had unknowingly learned a lot. He knew how to properly use his personal urinal, knew how to carry out instructions, and understood more and more things. Although Feng Zhao would also teach him some things, most of them were things he had learned in his daily life. The more he understood, the faster he learned. Curly Hair had been a complete novice at the start, but he had quickly learned how to use his aura and strategy. What kind of dog was this? Had he been like this from the start, or had he only changed later? If he had such a strong learning ability and attack power from the start, how could he have ended up in such a miserable state in the black streets and almost starved to death? Yuqing and Ai Wan, who had lived in the black streets for decades, had said that this stray dog had lived in the black streets for a few years. If he had only changed later, then when did he start to change? Fang Zhao carefully recalled the time all the way back to when he had just been reborn. He had woken up in this body, and this dog, had something else awakened in its body? Without a doubt, this was indeed a dog, but what else was hidden in this dog's body? From an extremely ordinary stray dog in the black streets to a dangerous object that could be discovered by police dogs even through a car, it was still changing. Its learning ability was still increasing, and it had even begun to learn to hide its strength. What would it become in the future? Chapter 110. On the field, after the shepherd dogs had gathered the flock of sheep, they started herding them forward. Just like in the Eastern Region Finals, the flock of sheep gradually picked up speed. Even if they took a little longer to gather the sheep than the previous two teams, they could still make up for the difference based on the speed at which they herded the sheep. Wu Yi and the others in the viewing hall were getting more and more excited. Zhu Wan and the others were even roaring until their faces were red. The road ahead was narrowing, and there was an obstacle in the middle. If they wanted to pass, they would have to make the flock even thinner, or they would have to split up. Su Ho applied for on-the-spot guidance and gestured to Curly Hair and Bingo, indicating that they would lead the dogs on both sides to split up. Fang Zhao, who had been staring at the screen, narrowed his eyes. He saw that as Curly Hair ran, he would bark a few times. He was giving instructions. This sort of leading dog barking to give instructions to the other shepherd dogs was not rare, so no one paid it much attention. However, Fang Zhao, who had been watching Curly Hair closely, realized that before Su Ho had made the signal, Curly Hair had already started to accelerate. This meant that Curly Hair's judgment of the situation might even be a step faster than Su Ho's. If Su Ho had not applied for on-the-spot guidance, what would Curly Hair get the other dogs to do? Fang Zhao had no way of guessing. When the flock of sheep encountered the obstacle in front of them, they split into two groups, from Y to Lambda, and then gathered together again. Throughout the entire process, the speed of the flock of sheep did not change at all. Although Bingo's group was a step slower, overall, the process was still very smooth. The people in the viewing hall were about to go crazy with excitement when they saw the prompt display on the top right corner of the screen. The only person in the hall who was calm was Fang Zhao, who was analyzing Curly Hair's behavior. Curly Hair had already learned how to lead the other dogs on the field to coordinate with the shepherding. He had already adapted to being a leader on the field. Besides strength, he also had brains. The more difficult the challenge, the faster he grew. His appearance had not changed, but his innards were changing every day. Would his intellect soon be the same as that of an average adult? Fang Zhao did not know if bringing Curly Hair to Muzhou was the right decision, but from the looks of it, Curly Hair did not seem to be a threat. While the competition was going on in the stadium, the police officers guarding the airport gate were not as busy as before, but they still had to stay here to prevent any accidents from happening. The extended platform of the stadium had been retracted, and the stadium was sealed off. The sound of the audience inside was completely isolated. They could only hear the commentator's voice coming from the stadium. Occasionally, they could hear a few inconspicuous barks coming from the open-air grass field during the commentator's pause. However, the previous two matches had been normal. Once the Dongshan farm match started, things started to go wrong. The police dogs let out a low growl, but this time they didn't bark. One reason was that they were far away, so they didn't feel that the danger was too strong. The other reason was that they were instructed not to bark loudly during the competition because it would disturb the dogs in the field. It wasn't just one dog that reacted this way. The police dogs distributed around the huge arena all had the same reaction. The lips on both sides of the police dog's mouth curled up, revealing its sharp canine teeth. Its eyes were filled with an ominous glint, and it kept growling. "Captain, "What do we do?" someone asked. The police captain had already received similar reports from the people scattered around the arena. After asking for the specifics, he discovered that it was all the same. It was only when Dongshan Farm appeared that the police dogs started to growl. This hadn't happened when the first two teams appeared. After thinking for 2 seconds, the police captain spoke to the other team members through the comms. "If the police dogs only growled at the field, don't move. Wait until Dongshan Farm's match is over, then report back to me." The competition was still going on. The people stationed here couldn't see the live broadcast, but they could tell from the commentators' increasingly excited tone that Dongshan Farm's sheepherding was almost over. They had already passed all sorts of obstacles, and their results were pretty good. In the pin. All in the pin. Not a single one missing. 4 minutes and 49 seconds. The commentator roared. 4 minutes and 49 seconds. Better than last year and the year before. This is the best result in the past 5 years. Only 5 seconds away from the record. The police officers outside the arena looked at each other, their eyes filled with joy, and they made a peace sign. They had all placed their bets on Dongshan Farm winning first place. This result was already outstanding enough. If there were no surprises, they would clinch first place. The police captain looked at the police dogs. Their growls had gradually stopped, and their ferocious demeanor had receded. The team members who were spread out in other areas also reported the situation there. They were all the same. "All right, everything is normal. Don't get distracted. Keep watching," the police captain said. Just 5 seconds short of breaking the first round record was a bit of a pity. However, for Fang Zhao and the others in the viewing hall, this was enough to excite them. This result was enough to crush most of the teams participating in the first round of the finals. There were still 5 teams left, but the atmosphere in the viewing hall was much more relaxed. When Su-ho and the 7 shepherd dogs returned, Wu-yi wished he could kneel down and kiss the 7 dogs one by one. After the veterinarian gave them a checkup, someone came over to feed them water, massage them, and relieve their fatigue. The 7 dogs enjoyed better treatment than humans. Fang Zhao glanced at Curly Hair. Curly Hair had just drunk some water and was enjoying the massage. When he saw Fang Zhao looking over, he wagged his tail vigorously, as if asking for praise. He looked no different from the other dogs. Fang Zhao smiled and gave him a thumbs up. He retracted his gaze, but he was even more puzzled. Was Curly Hair's change really related to his rebirth? It seemed like he had to find some time to go to the Black Street and ask around after the competition. There are still 5 teams left. Let's keep watching. Wu collected his emotions and sat down to continue watching the competition. Every time a team finished, Wu would heave a sigh of relief. Those teams had not taken any less time than them. Shobei Farm in the eastern region also had a good time, 5 minutes and 13 seconds. They were in the top 4. Of the 5 teams behind, the best was a farm in the western region. They had also taken 5 minutes, but their time was 4 minutes and 58 seconds, 9 seconds more than Dongshan Farm. Teams that could enter the finals were all very outstanding. The first round's results were not that far apart, but without a doubt, Dongshan Farm's results were indeed eye-catching. When all 8 teams had finished their matches, the sealed stadium once again opened up. The previously quiet stadium suddenly became noisy. They were still discussing the previous matches. Some were happy, some were worried, some were laughing, and some were angry. These were all people who had spent a large amount of money on their bets. However, some were able to get back double the amount, while others could only watch as the money they had bet became someone else's. After the competition, Wu-yi and Su-ho had to bring their dogs through the competitors' exclusive passageway. They had to undergo post-competition inspections and be assigned a dog carriage. They also had to be interviewed. The organizers had people to protect them. Su-ho and Su-feng had also hired people to protect them, so there was no need to worry about their safety. Fang Zhao brought Zhu-wan and the others through another public passageway to exit the competition hall. Fang Zhao had just left the competition hall and was thinking about Curly Hair's problems when he heard someone call out to him from behind. That person in front, Fang something. Right, Fang Zhao. Hey, Fang Zhao. Fang Zhao turned and looked in the direction of the voice. The others also looked back curiously. When Su Feng saw the person running over, His face twitched involuntarily. Zero Renault? Feng Zhao looked at the sloppy-looking young man running over and recalled Great General Renault's temper. If Renault was still alive and saw his descendant behaving like this, he would probably be so angry that he would take action, right? Zero's assistant, who was following closely behind, held 2 cups in his hands. One was filled with alcohol, the other with a cold drink. Another bodyguard, who was following closely behind, was holding a fan and blowing at Zero. After Zero ran over, he twirled his glasses and turned his head. The assistant hurriedly passed the cup of cold drink over. After slurping a few mouthfuls, he kept the cup and stood still. After drinking the cold drink, Zero smacked his lips and sized up Feng Zhao. The one who created Polar Light was you? Forget it, we'll talk about other things later. As he spoke, he looked left and right but could not find the dog he was looking for. Where's your dog? Zero asked with an air of, I'm the boss. Zhu Wan and the others immediately went on guard. Did this idiot have designs on their curly hair? Walk to the other side for the inspection, Feng Zhao said. When can it come out? Zero asked again. No idea. Then forget it. I heard that curly hair is your dog? That's right, Feng Zhao replied. Are you selling it? Name any price. Chapter 111. Seeing the other party reject him without even thinking, Zero was very dissatisfied. Back then, when he had bought a puppy in Muzhou, the person in Muzhou had tried all sorts of excuses and had not wanted to sell the puppy to him. In the end, Zero had used money to get the person to agree. The puppy he had bought was the little angel that he was holding on a leash now. It was the descendant of the most valuable competition dog back then. Zero had originally wanted to choose another most valuable competition dog to accompany his beloved dog, but after watching the first round of the competition, he had set his sights on Curly Hair. Unfortunately, Curly Hair's breed was different from Muzhou's native shepherd dogs, so Zero had decided to just buy the dog and be done with it. Feng Zhao was not a Muzhou person, so he should not have that kind of obsession with competition dogs. But now, Feng Zhao did not agree. Could it be that he felt the price was too low? Zero sized up Feng Zhao once more and said, I know that your curly hair still has room to rise in value. How about this? I will reserve it first. When the Muzhou finals are over and the official price is announced, I will double the price. As soon as Zero said this, the face of the assistant beside him contorted. This person had been personally chosen by Zero's agent. As the new assistant, he had already promised Zero's agent to keep an eye on Big Master at all times and not let this fellow squander money on unnecessary things. That curly hair dog was already worth 50 million. After the finals, even if it did not cross 100 million, it would at least be tens of millions, right? What kind of concept was doubling? If he really let Zero spend this money, when he returned to Liezhou, he would definitely be fired by Zero's agent. At this moment, this new assistant was filled with regret. Why had he not stopped Zero's idiotic behavior just now? Luckily, Feng Zhao replied very quickly. I said, not selling. Are you an idiot? Zero's face immediately filled with anger. Seeing that Zero was about to start causing trouble, the assistant beside Zero took 2 steps forward and leaned over to Zero's ear to say a few words. The anger on Zero's face quickly subsided, and he agreed. Makes sense. How about this? I don't want that dog of yours anymore. When that dog of yours has puppies. Oh right, that curly hair dog of yours is a male and can't give birth. When that dog of yours has puppies with a female dog, I will reserve one. You name the price. You know who I am, right? Just send someone to Liezhou to let me know. If you can't find anyone, just report my name. Zero took Feng Zhao's silence as a tacit agreement. He was about to say something when his assistant urged, Senior Master, it's almost time. We have to hurry over. Oh right, we still have to go fishing. Zero looked at the time and got anxious. He had a fishing competition with someone. If he was late, the competition would start. He turned his head and shouted to Feng Zhao, remember, let me know when you have puppies. Big brother has money. Watching Zero leave in a hurry with his assistant and bodyguards, Zuan asked Fang Zhao. Is there something wrong with his brain? Ignore it, Fang Zhao said. That brat was asking for a beating. If old Renault was still here, he would have slapped him long ago. Su Ho and the others still had to go through a series of interviews and coordinate with the organizers' publicity activities. With the Su family around, Fang Zhao was not worried that something would go wrong. Su Feng had already told him that this time, the higher-ups had spoken. No one would dare touch Su Ho. They had also watched the first match. Zuan and the others were here on vacation, so they could not possibly be at the same time as Wu Yi and Su Ho. Thus, after leaving the competition venue, they went to Su Ho's Dongshan farm, which Fang Zhao had invested in. This is huge. This is all Dongshan Farm's territory? Used to living in a crowded city, Peng Pusong, Zheng Huang, and the others, who were visiting Muzhou for the first time, were indeed amazed. After renovations, compared to the miserable state Su Ho had been in when he had first bought the farm, the current farm was full of vitality. A few lazy dogs had been trained to run around the farm, and the fields were already full of crops. Although the pastures were still relatively empty, the grass had already grown very well. Looking at the mountains and rivers and admiring the scenery, Zhu Wan and the others felt a sense of novelty. Their entire being felt refreshed. Knowing that the people from the virtual projects department loved this kind of environment, Su Feng invited them to Four Elephants Farm for a tour. For Elephants Farm had always been doing well. Unlike the primitive emptiness of Dongshan Farm, For Elephants Farm was in a fresh and busy state. It was a combination of technology and primitive environment. There were many modern aids throughout the farm to help with planting, herding, weather forecasting, and soil condition monitoring. There were also many hired workers and a fish pond. Su Feng sent people to show Zhu Wan and the others around the farm. A week passed by quickly, and the vacation time Fang Zhao had requested from Duan Qianji was up. He could continue staying in Muzhou as a composer to seek inspiration, but the others could not. The day Zhu Wan and the others left Muzhou was the start of the second round of the sheep herding competition. Fang Zhao got Zhu Yu to send them back while he stayed in Muzhou for another day. When they boarded the flying transport, Zhu Wan and the others looked back every few steps, feeling that they had not had enough fun. Don't look anymore. There will be more opportunities in the future, Fang Zhao said. That's right. Zhu Wen's brain had already started to calculate. As long as they completed their assigned tasks, they might be able to get another vacation within the next 2 months. They might even be able to rush over to watch another round of the finals. It was just that their vacation time would not be as long as this time. Anyway, Fang Zhao was around. They just had to follow him. After thinking it through, Zhu Wen's reluctance to part faded. He loaded the gifts Su Feng had given him onto the flying transport and left. Fang Zhao walked into the viewing hall to watch the second round of the finals. The second round was not as complicated as the opening ceremony. It did not attract as much attention to foreigners as the opening day, but for Muzhou people, it was still an important day. Practically every household had people watching the live broadcast. Compared to the first round, the difficulty of the second round was higher. The sheep flock was divided into 10 smaller herds. The shepherd dogs had to gather all of them before rushing to their destination. Throughout the competition, Fang Zhao paid close attention to Curly Hair's performance. He watched as Curly Hair followed Su Ho's instructions and led the other shepherd dogs to gather the scattered sheep flocks. Whenever a dog ran off to the wrong place, Curly Hair would bark to alert the other dogs. In the second round, Dongshan Farm was still in first place, but they were only 3 seconds behind second place and 5 seconds behind third place. It could be said that there was not much of a gap between the top 3, and as the competition progressed, the gap would continue to shrink. This was because, other than Curly Hair, Dongshan Farm's other dogs were still a distance away from the other teams. Thus, even if they won the first 2 rounds, no one could be sure who would be the final champion. After watching the second round, Fang Zhao left Muzhou and returned to Yenzhou. Curly Hair continued his training at Shanmu Farm. For dogs, Muzhou was indeed better than Yenzhou. There were vast grasslands for dogs to run around freely. Fang Zhao did not let Zhu Yu pick him up. After returning to Yenzhou, he did not go to the office or home. Instead, he went to the Black Street. Yu Qing was dozing off at the counter. When he heard the sound of someone entering the room, He opened his eyes and was immediately wide awake. Feng Zhao, what are you doing here? Yu Qing hurriedly pulled Feng Zhao to the table and took out a bottle of wine that had been hidden for many days from the innermost cabinet. Feng Zhao had come empty-handed. I brought a team to Muzhou for a vacation and bought some stuff to send over. They should be here in the afternoon. He checked the time. They should be here in 2 hours. Hey, why did you buy so much stuff when you're here? Yu Qing was embarrassed. He had not helped Feng Zhao much, and the stuff Feng Zhao had sent over was worth quite a lot. Feng Zhao smiled and looked at Yu Qing's shop. It was slightly more spacious than when he had left the Black Street. I bought the place you used to live. The house is connected to the ground floor to store goods. The shop below looks a lot more spacious. It's not as cramped as before, Yu Qing said. Not bad, Feng Zhao said. You should get the shop next door soon, right? Hee, you saw through me. Yu Qing did not hide it. He did not think Feng Zhao would have any designs on his assets. The shop next door has been closed for a long time. The owner borrowed too much money and was chased. Recently, he sneaked back and plans to sell the shop to pay off his debts. I have already discussed it with the owner. If nothing goes wrong, it should be finalized in a month. Congratulations. I should be the one congratulating you. You are famous now. Yu Qing poured Feng Zhao a glass of wine. Congratulations. It's just an empty reputation. It won't last long. Feng Zhao raised his glass and clinked it with Yu Qing. Then, like Yu Qing, he drained the glass. Yu Qing refilled Feng Zhao's glass and asked, Is something the matter this time? A little. Actually, when Feng Zhao had first woken up, he had asked some people from the Black Street, but they had not noticed anything strange that morning. This time, Feng Zhao had come to ask in detail. Did anything special happen the night I picked up curly hair? Feng Zhao asked. Yu Qing looked at Feng Zhao in surprise and asked in a low voice, Someone wanted to harm you? Other than that, Yu Qing could not think of any other reason. He knew that Feng Zhao's childhood friend had done a lot of things in secret and thought Feng Zhao was investigating again. I wanted to clarify some things, Feng Zhao said. Yu Qing felt that it must be what Feng Zhao was thinking, so he did not pursue the matter. He thought back carefully and shook his head. I did not notice anything special that night. I saw you buy medicine and go back to your room. I thought you were going to commit suicide and have curly hair accompany you. This kind of suicide plan is popular in the Black Street. A few young people who came to my shop to buy things even made a bet. I have a deep impression of it. But other than that, I really did not notice anything strange. There did not seem to be any strangers around. Feng Zhao thought about it and asked, Was there a power outage or a communication failure? No, everything was fine. Did your room malfunction that day? Yu Qing thought of something and said, Wait, let me check. Chapter 113. Thanks, Feng Zhao said. Feng Zhao said, Who else has installed surveillance cameras around here? We don't need the ones at home. The ones outside will do. I know a few, but I'm afraid I'll have to fork out some money to get the footage. Yu Qing was well aware of the character of the people around here, especially a few. They wouldn't agree easily if they didn't get something in return. Even if the footage was useless to them, they wouldn't give it away for free. No problem, as long as I can get it. Okay, you don't need that bit of money anyway. Don't follow me. I'll go ask for it. If those people recognize you, they'll definitely ask for a ridiculous price. Yu Qing closed his shop for the time being. There wasn't much business during the day anyway, so he let Feng Zhao rest in the shop. He helped Feng Zhao find a few old acquaintances who lived nearby to ask for footage. No one was willing to give their own footage to someone else, but as long as the price was reasonable, it wouldn't be a problem. An hour later, Yu Qing brought over 7 copies of footage from last May. There were a few that weren't saved locally but in the cloud. Since I didn't renew my subscription, the data didn't last for half a year and can't be found. 500 per copy. Just give me 3,500. Don't pay any more. Yu Qing had lowered the price. Those people were too good at bidding. Just an expired, unimportant footage was worth so much. Feng Zhao had just transferred the money to Yu Qing when Yu Qing received a call from an old acquaintance from the Black Street. Hey, old you. I heard you're looking for last year's footage. Why didn't you call me? I have a few copies here. The person who had contacted Yu Qing was a young man who had been doing well on the Black Street recently and was well informed. He had already heard about this from someone Yu Qing had contacted, so he hurriedly contacted Yu Qing. At the same time, he had coerced and enticed Yu Qing to buy a few copies at a low price. Yu Qing glanced at Feng Zhao. Seeing Feng Zhao nod, he said, "How many copies do you have? I want to inspect them first." "You don't believe me? Could the stuff I produce be fake?" "It wouldn't be fake. You don't have the guts. But the footage you have might not be from my neighborhood. It's not too far. How about this? I'll send it to you first. You decide if it's okay. I believe in your character, old you. Haha." Soon, the other party sent Yu Qing a few videos. They were all from last May. When Yu Qing received the videos, he directly received the entire month of May. Therefore, when the other party received the videos from others, they also directly received the entire month of May. Heh, out of the 8 recordings, only 3 are near me. As for the other 5, 3 are from a shop 100 meters away, and 2 are from another street, Yu Qing said. That's why I said, old you, do as you see fit. The other party didn't feel embarrassed. Anyway, he had already sent the video over. If he could earn more, he would. The next street isn't too far away. I don't know what you're looking for, or did you lose something? Maybe these people can give you some clues? Boss you, just accept all of them. At most, you can give me less of the ones that are further away. Is that okay? Yu Qing glanced at Feng Zhao. Seeing Feng Zhao nod his head in agreement, Yu Qing said to the other side, the 3 sets near each other will be the same as the others, 500%. 3 sets on the same street is still too far, 100%, 50, for the next street altogether. The other side was silent for 2 seconds, probably calculating the total price. That's it? Just give me 2,000 to round it up. Yu Qing glanced at Feng Zhao. He knew Feng Zhao didn't care about this bit of money, but he couldn't let those little brats think he was easy to fool, so he grumbled for a while before agreeing. The other side was pretty happy with the money, not caring at all about Yu Qing's scolding, and happily logged off. Yu Qing marked the videos one by one, just in case Feng Zhao didn't know the locations. After all, Feng Zhao had only been living here for a short time and rarely went out, so there were a lot of places he wasn't familiar with. After receiving the videos, the express delivery from Muzhou arrived. Feng Zhao called over AI Wan, who was catching up on sleep at the pharmacy. The 3 of them had a meal together, and AI Wan sent Feng Zhao a copy of the video from his shop's entrance. After leaving the Black Street, Feng Zhao returned to his place. Of the 15 videos he'd bought, plus the 2 Yu Qing and AI Wan had given him, there were a total of 17 videos. They were all placed on a single screen. Feng Zhao pulled up the time of each video to the night before his rebirth and fast-forwarded it. Every video was very clear, and the sounds inside could be heard clearly. However, Feng Zhao had muted the video and stared at the screen, observing every possible change. The video from Yu Qing's shop, as well as the other 10 in the vicinity, were the main focus. Feng Zhao saw the dispirited figure. Just through the video, he could feel the dispirited and lifeless aura emanating from him. It was the night before Feng Zhao's rebirth. The original owner of this body had bought medicine from AI Wan's pharmacy and returned home. Indeed, many people had tried to talk him out of it, including AI Wan, Yu Qing, and a few elderly people, but the original owner of this body didn't seem to hear anything. His eyes didn't even move, as if he were a wooden puppet. It was only when he saw the muddy curly-haired dog that he paused for a moment and picked it up. Feng Zhao couldn't see what happened after entering the corridor, but there was a surveillance video shot from a slightly higher point in the opposite building. It was just enough to capture the shops below and the windows of the few floors above them. Feng Zhao saw the light in the window above Yu Qing's shop go out. Then, nothing unusual happened. The Black Street was very lively at night. Many people came and went. Other than a few youngsters who had made bets at Yu Qing's shop, it seemed like no one would pay attention to a person with no presence. Feng Zhao continued to wait and watch the surveillance video. 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. The bustle of the Black Street at night gradually faded. There were fewer people on the streets, and many shops closed for the day. When it was almost 7 a.m., the screen flickered. It flashed very quickly, only for a second, but the same thing happened in all 17 surveillance videos. Then, until daybreak, until he opened the window to look outside after his rebirth, there were no other abnormalities. Was there a power failure? Or something else? Feng Zhao rewound the time to around 7 a.m. This time, he paid attention to the time. It was 6:55 a.m. 32 seconds later, the screen flickered. The surveillance video of Yu Qing's shop flickered the most. In that second, there was almost no clear image, as if the system had malfunctioned. Although the surveillance video furthest away also flickered, it wasn't to the extent that nothing could be seen. The farther away the surveillance video was, the less obvious it was. The surveillance video furthest away from the small house, not in the same building or on the same street, had only flickered a little. After comparing the two, it was worth pondering. Feng Zhao found the morning live broadcast from that time, and also looked up who was broadcasting in the vicinity of the Black Street at that time to make a comparison. Further away, the same thing didn't happen. This kind of situation only existed on the Black Street. The closer it was to where he lived, the more obvious it was. Outside of the Black Street, this kind of situation had never occurred. Feng Zhao zoomed in to 200 inches, then zoomed in on the surveillance video of the small house's window. Luckily, the surveillance video was a little further away from the small house, so it wasn't impossible to see anything. Feng Zhao cut the video and played it in slow motion. At 6:55:32, the image flickered. At the same time, Feng Zhao saw through the slightly distorted image that there seemed to be a flash of light inside the small house, synchronized with the flickering image. 7 in the morning was the quietest time on the Black Street. The people who worked during the day hadn't woken up yet, and the people who worked at night had just gone to bed. There wasn't a single person on the Black Street. No one could understand the inconspicuous abnormality that had occurred at that time. Even if there were surveillance cameras, it didn't matter if they could detect it. Even if they did, they wouldn't think much of it. Instead, they would think that someone was playing with flashing lights in the house, or that there was a mechanical malfunction. After playing the scene in slow motion more than 10 times, Feng Zhao leaned back in his chair and pondered. Clearly, the abnormality in the surveillance video had been caused by something that had happened in the house. What was that flash of light? Was it related to his rebirth? And what had happened to Curly Hair, who was also in the house? Feng Zhao clenched his fist and felt the power of every cell in his body. When he had first started working out at the company, he had realized that this body seemed to contain even more power. He had thought that it was just the body itself, but now he had some doubts. After the end of days, people's physiques had also strengthened. However, due to technological advancements, most people didn't need physical labor. After hundreds of years, other than some industries that really required physical strength, people didn't rely too much on their physical strength. Thus, there was a trend toward degeneration. With the development of technology and the success of genetic technology, many diseases hidden in the genes were eliminated as early as infancy. As human lifespans increased, there were fewer and fewer diseases that could threaten one's life. Fitness and exercise became a form of entertainment. The pace of the city made more people stop strengthening their bodies. Things that could be solved with the brain didn't need muscles. Feng Zhao knew that besides the fact that he had replaced Xinzi with himself, this body had also strengthened in terms of physical strength. As for Curly Hair, Feng Zhao didn't know what had happened to him, but his physique had also improved. He spent more time running on the grass than other dogs, but he didn't seem tired at all. Oh right. Now, Curly Hair had learned to conceal himself. He would pretend to be like other dogs, lying on the ground with his tongue out and panting as if he was tired from running. There seemed to be a lot of clues, but in fact, there were very few. Feng Zhao still couldn't find the source of this change. Was it his strange rebirth that caused this anomaly, or was it the anomaly that caused his rebirth? Had Curly Hair been affected, or was he the source of the problem? Chapter 114. Luckily, there were so many things going on in the Black Street every day. Even if someone discovered this abnormality, they would not think that it was a rebirth. they would just assume that someone had done something. Fang Zhao put away the videos and pulled up all of Curly Hair's pre-match and post-match test reports. The post-match tests were not very useful. Because there was a break after the competition, Fang Zhao could not tell how Curly Hair's body was different from a normal dog's after intense exercise. But one thing he could tell was that Curly Hair was very healthy. Other dogs would get diarrhea or experience discomfort from eating random food, but Curly Hair had no such reactions. Wu had laughed and told Fang Zhao that after Curly Hair had learned how to herd sheep in Muzhou, his physique had become stronger and more robust. Although he was small in size, one could clearly see the difference in this dog when he ran. He is a natural king of sheep herding, Wu had said after the Eastern Region Finals. But now, Fang Zhao could confirm that it wasn't just sheep herding. Perhaps Curly Hair could learn other things very quickly. His stamina had already far surpassed that of other dogs, and Fang Zhao couldn't say for sure whether he would continue to improve in the future. And Fang Zhao's own abnormalities were synchronized with Curly Hair's. It was just that Fang Zhao had concealed it well, so others had not noticed. In the following period, Fang Zhao was still busy in the company. As the head of a department, he had many things to do. Fang Zhao had spoken to Duan Qianji before. He could not keep doing this. Back then, he had taken over the virtual projects department because there had been no one to manage it. Now that the department had risen, many people were more professional than Fang Zhao and could handle things better, so there was no need for Fang Zhao to continue doing those things. After his rebirth, he just wanted to enjoy life in the new era as he liked and not be buried in all sorts of forms, reports, and contracts. But Duan Qianji had always been worried that after Fang Zhao was no longer the department manager, the virtual projects department would return to its original state, so she had not agreed. But as September approached, Fang Zhao did not want to drag it out any longer. He went to look for Duan Qianji again, this time with a more unyielding attitude. Duan Qianji was also having a headache. She was really scared of the repeated failures in the past. It was rare for Silverwing's virtual projects department to rise, and she wanted Fang Zhao to continue staying in the department, but Fang Zhao's specialty was composing, not handling all sorts of contracts and documents every day. The reason Fang Zhao gave for his application also made Duan Qianji feel helpless. I have to go out from time to gather materials. Fiery Bird's game consoles will arrive in September. I will adapt to the new game consoles in September and start gaming in October. My schedule is pretty full. This was the first time Duan Qianji had met someone who brazenly used the excuse of playing games to apply for a transfer. If someone else had said, "I quit, I want to play games," she would have kicked them out of the Silver Wing building long ago. But it just so happened that this person was Fang Zhao, and he had the right to fight for free composing time. And after Fang Zhao had signed a contract with the company, he had indeed composed some high-quality music. The credit was there for everyone to see, and it was a win-win situation for everyone. Duan Qianji had no way of rebutting this. To put it mildly, playing games was like applying for personal leisure time and taking long vacations. This was indeed a reasonable application that matched Fang Zhao's profession. Using salary to threaten him? This was really of no use to Fang Zhao. He did not lack money at all. Although Duan Qianji had not been to Muzhou, she had heard from Zuoyu that Fang Zhao had made a killing betting on sheep herding competitions in Muzhou. Zuoyu had not said exactly how much, but from Zuoyu's expression, Duan Qianji knew that even if Fang Zhao did not work and played games for a few years, he would still be able to enjoy a high-quality lifestyle. What a headache. The more Duan Qianji thought about it, the more her head hurt. How about this? You take on the temporary position of department manager, and I will arrange for a deputy manager to handle the day-to-day affairs of the department. You can compose in peace, Duan Qianji said. She had not decided what position Fang Zhao would be transferred to, but she definitely would not let Fang Zhao leave the virtual projects department. Fang Zhao thought about it. That's fine. The person Duan Qianji had assigned to the virtual projects department as the temporary deputy manager was her secretary, Zhu Zhan. Previously, Zhu Zhan had been in charge of contacting Fang Zhao, so she had a good understanding of the virtual projects department situation. Now that Duan Qianji was the one making the final decisions for the virtual projects department and the situation had already been opened up by Fang Zhao, all Zhu Zhan had to do was follow orders, and the pressure was not that great. Zuwan and the others did not feel much about the addition of a temporary leader. The boss of the department was still Feng Zhao, and they were still at ease. If they really received unfair treatment, they could still continue hugging Feng Zhao's thigh. They just treated it as if Polar Light had an additional manager. After the various affairs of the department were distributed, other than a few major decisions, there was no need to disturb Feng Zhao. Feng Zhao went to Muzhou again to observe Curly Hair's daily training and the subsequent rounds of the finals. As the rounds progressed, the requirements for the other shepherd dogs on the team became higher. However, other than Curly Hair, Dongshan Farm's other dogs were still lacking in terms of ability. Thus, after consecutively taking first place, Dongshan Farm only managed to place second in the third round of the finals and third in the fourth round. Relying on Curly Hair alone? Feng Zhao did not know if Curly Hair would have that ability in the future, but the current Curly Hair was unable to completely dominate the entire field by himself. He had to coordinate with the other dogs. If their coordination was not good and they could not keep up with the pace, they might be overtaken by the teams behind them. On the leaderboard, after 4 rounds, Dongshan Farm's points were still the highest, and they still held first place. However, Wu Yi and Su Ho were very worried. The later rounds were even more complicated, and their confidence was starting to waver. Luckily, in the 5th round, because of Curly Hair's outstanding performance, Dongshan Farm once again took first place with a slight advantage. It was almost as if one dog was driving the entire field. His speed was even faster, and he even helped the other dogs share the load. His performance was very dazzling. Anyone who had a slight understanding of sheep herding could see that the core of this team, the main driving force, was still that little curly-haired dog. And in the 5th round, Curly Hair's value had already risen to 75 million. In the later rounds, Dongshan Farm did not win first place in every round, but he would not be squeezed out of the top 3. His total points were still ahead of 2nd and 3rd place. There were no fixed competition days for the 10 rounds of the finals. Usually, it would be held once every 5 to 7 days. If the weather was not suitable for the competition, it would be brought forward or delayed. Muzhou revered nature. So many times they felt that the changes in the weather were also a kind of test. They would adapt to the natural weather and make changes to the competition schedule. By the time the last round of the 10 rounds ended, it was already August. Dongshan Farm occupied first place on the overall leaderboard. Although there were a few times when they were tied for first place and were almost overtaken, they still managed to persevere until the end. That day, the entire Muzhou's focus was on Curly Hair, the lead dog of the champion team, the undisputed most valuable dog. His value had reached a new high on the sheep herding competition's official homepage, 100 million. A dog from outside Muzhou, a dog that looked like a pet dog, had won the title of Most Valuable Competition Dog in this year's Muzhou Finals. In Muzhou, there was really someone who had jumped out and vowed to buy that curly-haired dog. Even though its value had already risen to the point that many people were retreating, there were still many rich people who were willing to bid. Other than Muzhou's local rich people, in Lijiu, Zero's manager pointed at Zero, who was on the phone with someone, with trembling hands. He gritted his teeth and said to the others, "Watch him. Don't let him buy a dog." News of a non-Muzhou native dog worth over 100 million spread to every continent, especially Yenzhou. At this time, Silver Wing leached off the hype. Under their control, every time that dog was mentioned, it was Yenzhou Silver Wing Virtual Projects Department Manager's dog. With this label, Silver Wing Yenzhou also had a sense of existence in the hearts of netizens from every continent. Wu Yi was about to go crazy with joy. Su Ho, the farm owner, was also bombarded with all sorts of interviews. As for Curly Hair, after the finals, he received his medal, and after an official interview, he was brought back to Yenzhou by Feng Zhao. Although there were many news mentions in Yenzhou, the people of Yenzhou viewed it purely as a way to adjust their mood and not as crazy as the people of Muzhou. Just as he returned to Yenzhou, Feng Zhao received a call from Duan Qianji. "Back?" Duan Qianji asked. "Back? Did you bring Curly Hair back? Do you want me to send more people over?" Duan Qianji asked. "No need. He's already home." "That's good." Duan Qianji heaved a sigh of relief. She had really been worried that the bunch of crazy dogs in Muzhou would force Curly Hair to stay in Muzhou. Today, quite a few directors personally came to look for me, saying that they would like to invite that curly-haired dog of yours, whose net worth has been hyped to 100 million, to act in a movie. They are all rather famous directors, so the production quality will definitely be higher. It's worth considering. Other than that, there are also advertising companies. Duan Xinji had never imagined that her own company would actually produce a dog with a net worth of over 100 million. Many celebrities had not reached such heights. Yet that dog had been brought to Muzhou by Feng Zhao in half a year, and he had accomplished it. I have already sent you the information. Take a look yourself. That is your own dog, and it belongs to you. The decision is yours, Duan Xinji said. Regarding the matter of Curly Hair, the company really could not make a decision. However, if Feng Zhao is willing, they could still work together. I will consider it, Feng Zhao said. Actually, he hoped that this matter would cool down as soon as possible, but completely not accepting any advertisements and completely hiding it was also impossible. That would instead increase people's curiosity and cause all sorts of suspicions. He would accept films and advertisements, but it would not be much. After Duan Xianji ended the call, Feng Zhao received another message from Zhu Wan. Boss, when are you bringing Curly Hair to the company? We renovated a luxurious mansion together and gave it to him. There were also messages from other people in the department, meaning to keep an eye on Curly Hair and not let him be stolen. 100 million. Feng Zhao switched off the communication device on his wristband, sent Wu Yu away, and closed the doors and windows. Come here, Feng Zhao said to Curly Hair, who was running around the house. After leaving the house for so long, Curly Hair was still very excited when he returned. He ran a few laps as if patrolling his territory. When he heard Feng Zhao call him, he hurriedly went over and squatted down. However, after meeting Feng Zhao's gaze, he felt a little uneasy and tentatively wagged his tail to curry favor. Don't pretend in front of me. I know you can understand me. In the past, perhaps you could only understand part of it. But now? Feng Zhao walked over to Curly Hair and stared at him. I believe you can understand everything. Curly Hair, who was squatting there, became even more uneasy. He shrunk his head as if he had done something wrong, and the frequency of his tail wagging decreased. He cautiously raised his head and looked at Feng Zhao. You should be aware that you are different from other dogs. No matter what changes have happened to your body, for our safety, don't behave too differently from others in the future. Of course, don't be too foolish either. Just maintain your current level. We're on the same boat, understand? Chapter 115. After observing for a long time and confirming that Curly Hair really understood what he was saying, Feng Zhao brought Curly Hair to the office. Zhu Wan and the others had said that the company had given Curly Hair a new place to stay. When Feng Zhao stepped onto the 50th floor, he saw a few more photos on the wall. Some were taken when Zhu Wan and the others had gone to Muzhou to watch the competition, while others were officially released photos from the Grand Finals awards ceremony. Originally, there had only been Polar Light's poster on the wall. Now, Polar Light and Curly Hair each took up half of the space. In Zhu Wen's words, these two were both from the Virtual Projects department. Even if Curly Hair was Feng Zhao's personal dog, now that Feng Zhao was in the Virtual Projects department, he could be considered a part of their department. As for Curly Hair's den, they had remodeled an entire room. They had even hired professionals to do the remodeling and had even laid out a fake lawn carpet. Curly Hair is here? My little sweetheart. Zhu Wan and Curly Hair, who was at Feng Zhao's feet, were so happy that their eyes were squinting. They had even brought the mushy nickname Little Darling from the competition to the company. They had spent a lot of effort to specially decorate the entire room for the dog. One reason was because Curly Hair's value was astonishing, and he was famous all over the world. The other reason was that when they had gone to Muzhou, they had bet on Dongshan Farm to win and Curly Hair to win the Most Valuable Dog Award. Now, they had all made a killing. Those who had bet less regretted not betting more. Zhuan had bet more and had earned at least 2 million. This was also why he had been so excited to see Curly Hair and call him Little Darling. Boss, I heard the company wants curly hair to act in a movie? Zhu Wen asked. That's why I'm here. After dropping curly hair off on the 50th floor, Fang Zhao went to the top floor to look for Duan Qianji. He had already seen the details of the films and advertisements that Duan Qianji had sent him. He had accepted a commercial for curly hair and had accepted a popular television series as a guest star in one episode. It wasn't a big assignment, just one episode. Other than that, he had also accepted a public service announcement, which had also been recommended by the company. The public service advertisement was about stray dogs. Of course, the main purpose was to make people take responsibility if they decided to keep a pet. If they were tired of keeping it for a few days, they would just throw it away like goods. They would be free, but not every dog that was thrown away would be caught in a centralized management place. Outside the central city, in the suburbs, and in places further away, stray dogs could often be seen. Not to mention the spread of diseases, there were also some incidents of injury from time to time. Many people knew that Curly Hair had been a stray dog before Fang Zhao had met him. No one had expected that this stray dog would turn the tables and become the most valuable competition dog, worth over 100 million. It was reasonable for the company to suggest that it shoot such a public service announcement. This public service announcement was funded by Silver Wing. A few celebrities would appear in it, and Fang Zhao would only be a cameo. The main character would be Curly Hair. After the arrangements were finalized, Fang Zhao, as the host, would follow them to the set. Probably because of Fang Zhao's hints, although Curly Hair appeared very intelligent during filming, his intelligence was more reasonable. There were many intelligent dogs in the world, and Muzhou had many shepherd dogs with high IQs. Therefore, the cast and crew did not think that Curly Hair was an anomaly. The advertisement was relatively simple. Whether it was a commercial shot by an old partner of Silver Wing or a public service advertisement shot by Silver Wing itself, filming went smoothly. Given the filming conditions of the new era, it was all done in a day. The film and TV series took a few more days. City Hunter was a detective drama, and there were quite a few big-name celebrities participating. After confirming that Curly Hair would be participating, the cast and crew put up a publicity poster. Someone joked, "The dogs used in City Hunter are all big names." While on set, Fang Zhao had discovered that many people were paying attention to news about the game battle of the century. Fiery Bird had released a new publicity film. This time, the publicity film contained even more information. During a break, someone directly projected the film for everyone to watch. In the publicity film, the city was like a wasteland, full of desolation. Numerous helicopters flew ahead. Seeing this scene, someone exclaimed, "I know that. That was called a tractor in the old era." Fang Zhao had been waiting for other people watching the publicity film to correct him, but after waiting for a few seconds, there was no movement. When he turned his head, he realized that everyone else watching had a, "So that's how it is." Sighing in his heart, Fang Zhao said, "That is called a helicopter." The transport type. Helicopter? I clearly remember it being called a tractor. That person still did not believe him. After searching, he discovered that Fiery Bird's official website had already released detailed information. The words twin-propeller medium-sized transport helicopter were especially eye-catching. "Oh, it really is called a helicopter. I remembered wrongly, haha." That person laughed and shouted at Fang Zhao, "Brother, your history is not bad. Do you play games? You must have spent a lot of effort to look up information this time, right?" After saying that, without waiting for Fang Zhao to reply, that person's attention was drawn to other things in the publicity film and he started discussing with the people around him. Fang Zhao was not too far away, so he could naturally see the publicity film clearly. It was too realistic. It made Fang Zhao feel as if he had really seen that era from his memories. Although there were videos that had been passed down, to perfectly recreate that era, Fiery Bird had spent a lot of money to hire a team of 100 consultants. All of them were world-renowned researchers who had studied the period of destruction. There were those who studied history, those who studied the development of science and technology, those who studied biochemistry, those who studied weapons and equipment, and so on. All of this was for a more complete and realistic effect. Besides the publicity film, Fiery Bird's official platform had opened up a category that introduced all sorts of things from the old era, from food and daily necessities to transportation. If one had a game console, they could even start practicing. Especially transportation and firearms, which were very different from the new era, had to be familiarized with in advance. After Curly Hair finished filming his scenes, Feng Zhao returned to the company. The handover of matters had already been completed. Now that the filming of the commercial and the drama had been completed, there was nothing else to do. It was noon when Feng Zhao arrived at the virtual projects department. Everyone in the department was gathered for lunch. When Feng Zhao walked in, he heard them discussing the tools of the old era. During this time, Feng Zhao had also heard many people in the cast and crew complaining. Why is an automatic transmission not autopilot? Why is the steering wheel round? Why are the brakes and accelerators so close? Why is driving a car from the old era so difficult? No way, I want a luxury car with the accelerator on the steering wheel. What the hell is a bicycle? Why can't it run on its own? Why is the balance so difficult to control? There are electric scooters, motorcycles, and sensory vehicles. Forget it, I won't use a bicycle. What's the point of having so few bullets in the magazine? People in the new era were already used to smart and simple controls. Not only were those things from the old era cumbersome and complicated, but they even had the feeling, why do these things exist? Zuwan and the others were also discussing this. With a game console, they could enter the official platform and start practicing the old era's transportation. Clearly, Zuwan and the others weren't used to it. Boss, our technical group was discussing new models yesterday. This year, I steeled my heart and switched to Fiery Bird's cabin-style game console, the 9th generation upgraded model. Generally speaking, the cabin-style experience is better than the helmet style, but I heard that the 10th generation will be releasing a new product this year. As for what it is, it hasn't been revealed yet. Boss, is yours the 10th generation? 10th generation? Is it really the 10th generation Rhapsody? The one that the official website said was released along with the 9th generation upgraded model this year? MHM, will you send it directly to the company? Send it home. Zuwan and the others were disappointed when they heard Feng Zhao's reply. They had thought that if it was sent to the company, they could take pictures to show off. Actually, Feng Zhao had intended to send it to the company, but after some thought, he got someone from Fiery Bird to send it directly to his home. You can play all you want at home, but it wouldn't be good to be so unrestrained at the company. After all, there were other people working, and Feng Zhao wasn't restricted. He didn't want to attract hatred or affect the work of others in the department. After noticing that his body was different from normal people, Feng Zhao had set up a set of training equipment at his place of residence. The company gym was left to the others in the department, so he didn't have to worry too much at home and didn't want others to discover his secret. Boss, do you know how to drive a car? Can you ride a bicycle? Can you use a gun? Zuwan asked a series of questions. The tools of the old era are too difficult to learn. I have to take the college entrance exam. Yes, Feng Zhao replied. You already learned it? But I also learned it. Among the few of us, only one you hasn't learned it yet, Zuwan said with a laugh. One you scowled. She really felt that it was too difficult. You guys only need to know it. When the time comes, won't we all go in and play together? Don't worry. You won't have me, Zheng Huang said. Zuwan nodded. Right. You won't have us. Chapter 116. Esports was also classified as one of the sports events. With the development of technology, the internet was everywhere, and esports had penetrated into people's lives. It caught up from behind and squeezed out some of the old sports events, becoming the most popular sports event in the world. Besides film, music, and live broadcasts, there was another big draw, and that was gaming. Its status in the new era was even higher than soccer and basketball in the old era. Esports had no shortage of stars. The main players of Yenzhou's 5 big esports clubs had the same influence as Silver Wing's A-level stars. Every time they participated in a large-scale competition, these main players would compete at the same time, and the impact would naturally be greater. Song Miao sighed. After today's episode of a niche drama airs, it will be on hiatus. We will have to wait until February or March next year to see the next episode. There's no other way. If we continue, we will lose money, Zhuan said. Because the soon-to-be-released Battle of the Century had attracted too much attention and popularity, online viewership for films and TV series had actually been on the decline since the beginning of the year. There had been a sharp drop in July and August. If they had continued to release it in September, perhaps the viewership would have dropped to a level that would have disappointed investors. Therefore, besides a few popular series, the rest had all entered hiatus to make way for Battle of the Century. Yesterday in the group chat, I heard from the film and television department that the company has recalled a few stars with dual careers in film, television, and gaming. They are probably preparing for publicity, Rodney said. Dual careers in film, television, and gaming? Fang Zhao really did not know much about this. They are professional actors and, at the same time, professional esports players, Zhuan explained. Some gaming stars would end up acting in films as they played. Some who were past their prime would also be signed and become stars with dual careers in film, television, and gaming. There were also some who were discovered when they were still students. After signing with the company would arrange for them to enter professional esports clubs and become professional esports players. These are all considered investments by the company. They have been laying in ambush for years, just for this moment. However, I feel that even if the company were to recall those people, they would not be able to make much of a splash. They would not be able to stop them. Think about 10 years ago. Oh, right, boss. 10 years ago you were still in middle school, and you did not pay much attention to this, Zhuan said. The next day, Fang Zhao understood what Zhuan meant by unstoppable. The day before, there had been quite a few movie stars appearing on the headlines of major entertainment media, but today, the top 10 trending topics of major media were dominated by news related to gaming clubs. The overwhelming news, movies, and music had all served as a foil to it. All the major esports clubs had started preparing a year in advance and had rejected all sorts of competitions. Even if they did participate, they would only send out their second or third teams. After selecting players from various games, they were all training for Battle of the Century. It was said that there were a few teams that had commissioned military academies to undergo military training for a few months. Previously, they had been in closed-door training, and it was only today that they were released. When Fang Zhao was watching the news, he realized that the trending topics in entertainment news were all esports stars, and more than 90% of them were from Yinzhou's 5 big esports clubs. A certain well-known esports player riding a bicycle could also be trending, and that was just the beginning. August 26th, Qian City's People's Stadium, which was also Yinzhou's largest stadium, Big Dipper Esports Club, one of Yinzhou's 5 big esports clubs, held a pre-battle vow. Millions of fans were present, and those who could not enter the stadium waited outside. August 27th, Qian City's business center's tallest building, Jungle Light, Transcendental Esports Club, held a pre-battle vow. The venue was packed. August 29th, 2S Esports Club booked Yinzhou's largest park to hold a pre-battle vow. The live broadcast channel was so lively that it almost jammed. August 30th, Boom Esports Club climbed Yinzhou's tallest mountain to hold a pre-battle vow. The cameraman was frozen like a dog. August 31st, HWR Esports Club held a pre-battle vow on an online virtual stage. Captain Jose said, "We are the most low-key." After that, they released a video showing off their skills in old-era motorcycles and cars, inciting incessant screams from fans. A number of fans fainted from the excitement and were sent to the hospital. Although the game would be officially released in October, the entire month of September would be undergoing adaptation training. For commercial esports clubs, the battle had already begun. September 1st, 8 a.m., Fiery Bird officially announced that the age limit for Battle of the Century had been increased from the original 16 to 18. It clearly stated that those under 18 were not allowed to enter. An hour after the announcement was made, hundreds of 17-year-olds gathered at Fiery Bird's entrance to hold a sit-in. They wanted to force Fiery Bird to lower the age limit to 17. Then, their parents were called. Fiery Bird's official spokesperson publicly explained that protesting at their entrance was useless. This age limit was jointly set by the Esports League and the relevant departments. It was also for the sake of everyone. Although children in the new era matured early because of the internet, and children who were slightly older already knew a lot, it did not mean that they had matured mentally. Their worldview and values could still be seriously affected by a small matter. Previously, Fiery Bird had estimated the age limit to be 16, but now they had raised it again. This was also a decision they had made after careful consideration. The game was too dangerous, and minors were allowed to enter. Fang Zhao received a call from Su Ho early in the morning. As he had not reached the age limit, Su Ho could not play Battle of the Century, so he had run over to Fang Zhao to act pitiful. His goal was to borrow curly hair. Su Ho had bought a few good shepherd dogs and hired people to train them, but the results were not good. Thus, he wanted to borrow curly hair. Perhaps under curly hair's influence, those dogs would learn faster. It had been like that back at Shamu Farm. Fang Zhao did not immediately agree. He needed to think it over first. After ending the call with Su Ho, Fang Zhao called curly hair over. Want to go to Muzhou's farm to play? Su Ho called to borrow you for a while. Woof. Curly hair's tail wagged especially jubilantly. It was obvious that he was very excited. He preferred to run freely on real grasslands. His home was still too small. He was used to running on the grasslands on the farm, so when he returned to Qian City, he felt that the space was too small. Remember what I told you before. When you get there, guard the farm well. Woof. I will get Su Ho to come pick you up. Woof. Curly hair ran around the house excitedly. After Fang Zhao replied to Su Ho was very happy. He had been waiting for this message. I will immediately head over from Muzhou to pick up the dog. Ding. Suddenly, there was a new notification. Fang Zhao gave Su Ho's address and said a few more words before ending the call and checking the message. Chapter 117. Fang Zhao's apartment was on the top floor of this building. When he had first bought this apartment, half of the top floor had been used as a garden. Fang Zhao had not made any changes after buying it from Xuejing, only expanding the parking apron. After receiving the message, Fang Zhao walked out. Not long after, he saw a black dot approaching from afar. The black dot expanded rapidly. It was a delivery drone. It descended above the parking apron but did not get too close. A black metal box was lowered vertically and landed on the parking apron. After Fang Zhao confirmed that he had received the item, the delivery drone left. The box was encrypted. Fang Zhao scanned his identity information, and the box opened automatically. Inside the metal box was a transparent box made of an unknown material. Inside was a humanoid machine that looked like a robot. Fang Zhao was puzzled. When had he ordered a robot? But when he saw the introduction of the item on the transparent box, he understood. This was not a robot. It was the 10th generation game console that Fiery Bird had sent over from headquarters. The machine was white with black stripes and a red Fiery Bird logo. This was his new game console? Fang Zhao really could not connect it. At this moment, Fang Zhao's wristband indicated that he had a call waiting to be connected. It was from an unknown number. Fang Zhao thought for a bit before answering. Hello, may I ask if this is Mr. Fang Zhao? A somewhat rough voice asked. Yes, it is me. Hello, I am Zachary, an engineer from Fiery Bird's Yenzhou branch. We are responsible for the installation and maintenance of the machine. We have received your confirmation. May I know if you are free today? If you are, we will be at your place within 20 minutes to help you install the machine and guide you on how to use it. If you are busy today, we can arrange another time. I don't have anything else to do. I'm at home. All right, then I will have to trouble you to wait for another 20 minutes. My assistant and I will head over to your place. Since an engineer would come over to install the machine, Fang Zhao did not touch the box for the time being. Boss, what is this? A housework robot? Zui had come over to deliver a document that required a manual signature. As there was a box on the parking apron, there was not much space for him to park, so he had parked in the public parking lot downstairs. He was puzzled when he saw the item on the parking apron. What was Fang Zhao buying a robot for? Housework. When he saw the insignia on the chest of the robot, he was even more puzzled. Since when had Bird become a housekeeping robot? It's not for housework. It's Bird's 10th generation game console, Feng Zhao said. The legendary 10th generation game console? Zuiyu was surprised. This is a game console? After reading the information on the box, Zuiyu believed that Feng Zhao wasn't lying. That's true. The legendary 10th generation look like this? What does the designer think? Although his words were full of contempt for Bird's designers, Zuiyu still circled the box curiously. Knowing that the engineer would be here soon, he was in no hurry to leave. Originally, he had planned to return to the company after delivering the document to Feng Zhao for his signature, but the document was not particularly urgent and could be delivered today. He wanted to stay here and take a look. If it had only been a helmet-type or cabin-type game console, he would not have been so curious. Even if it was the latest model from Bird, he would not have been interested. However, this design had piqued his curiosity. It should be an exoskeleton design. Never would I have expected to see an exoskeleton design on a game console. It's just that the exterior doesn't look impressive enough. Zuiyu clicked his tongue in wonder as he looked at it. He wished he could open the box and touch it. Feng Zhao understood what Zuiyu was referring to when he said exoskeleton. Humans were familiar with the protective outer shell of prawns, crabs, and other animals. Humans also had similar programs to protect their fragile bodies. For example, the exoskeleton-type wearable suit had actually been in use before the end of days. During the end of days, scientists had also initiated the exoskeleton project, but the technology had not matured, and Feng Zhao had not been able to wear it in battle in his previous life. After mankind had begun the era of extraterrestrial exploration in the new era, this type of technology had developed rapidly. However, in the past, it had mostly been used for military and medical purposes. The deepest impression the public had had was the armor-like power suits of the Space Marine Corps. It was not that there were no uses for entertainment facilities, but it was very rare. The cost was too high, and no company was willing to try it. Who would have thought that Bird would actually choose an exoskeleton design for the 10th generation? It seemed like when Bird had said that they would make changes for the 10th generation, it meant that they had started the exoskeleton project and had already realized it. Zuiyu's eyes were filled with envy. Too bad it's just a game console. If only it was a real exoskeleton. Have you ever worn that type of power suit? Feng Zhao asked. Nope. I entered the military a long time ago and studied at a military school. During my military service, I obeyed the collective assignment and was transferred to assist in counterterrorism. I was unable to go out. Zuiyu was very regretful. Unable to go out meant that he had not been able to leave the planet. This had always been Zuiyu's regret. He had thought that if he continued to work hard in the military, one day he would be able to go out. Unfortunately, he had made a mistake and been kicked out of the military. However, seeing the Bird 10th generation in front of him, Zuiyu started to look forward to it again. Bird's goal should be to let more people have a good time. Those so-called exoskeletons sold online are just for show. In terms of technology and feeling, they definitely cannot compare to the real thing. Since Bird has designed the 10th generation as an exoskeleton design, given their reputation, even if the feeling after wearing it cannot compare to the real thing, it will not be too far off. As Feng Zhao and Zuiyu were chatting, a flying car flew over. As there was no extra space to park, a middle-aged man in work attire jumped out of the car and showed Feng Zhao his work identification. Hello, I am the engineer who contacted you before, Zachary. Zachary looked a little like those Muzhou farm workers. He was a little tanned. His rough hands were full of calluses, and he was very spirited. After introducing himself, Zachary pressed a button on a certain part of the transparent box. Four wheels popped out from the bottom of the box. Zachary pushed the box aside and got his assistant to park the car on the tarmac. Where does Mr. Feng wish to place the machine? Zachary asked. That room. Feng Zhao opened the door to a room that he had prepared long ago. It was still empty and did not have anything else inside. After Zachary pushed the box into the room, he started to get busy with his assistant. As he installed it, He explained to Feng Zhao the advantages that the 10th generation had over the previous 9th generation models. It will not bring you any weight and is more convenient. For example, when you are tired from playing games, you can wear it to eat, drink, and sleep. That is to say, apart from showering, you can basically wear it all the time. It also satisfies the aspirations of some gamers towards the Space Marine Core Power Suit. If you can get used to this, even if you wear the Space Marine Core Power Suit in the future, you will not feel too uncomfortable. Of course, there are many functions that the real Space Marine Core Power Suit does not have. The Space Marine Core Power Suit is a weapon, and this is just a game console. It can only simulate that kind of feeling. Other than that, it will let you feel more real in-game. While Zachary was explaining, Zuiyu was itching to try it out. Boss, after you try it out in a while, can you let me have a try? Sure, Feng Zhao replied. After the installation and inspection was completed, Zachary guided Feng Zhao to put it on. Actually, it was not complicated because it was automatic. All he needed to do was verify his identity and authorization. Feng Zhao could feel that he was wearing an outer shell, but he did not feel stifled or restricted. Waving his hands, swinging his arms, walking, jumping, and other things were all very free, and there was no sense of obstruction. It seemed like what Zachary said about being able to eat, drink, and sleep while wearing it was true. All right, now you can enter the adaptation stage. I recommend that you lie down. If you stand up, once you enter the game, after a long time, your nerves will not feel tired, but your body will still bear the burden. After you leave the game, you will feel some side effects. Sitting is fine, but I still recommend lying down, Zachary said. Feng Zhao did not go out to find a bed. He directly laid down and followed Zachary's instructions to enter the adaptation process. As if his soul had been extracted from his body, Feng Zhao felt like he was standing in a strange place. He could not feel his original body lying on the floor. In front of him was a basketball, and the surroundings had become a basketball court. Below his feet was a wooden floor, and he was wearing a basketball uniform and basketball shoes. Mr. Feng, you have already entered the adaptation process. You can move as you please. We will check your adaptation level. Zachary's voice came from beside his ear. Feng Zhao did not waste any more words. He walked over and picked up the ball. He could clearly feel the texture on the surface of the basketball. Indeed, very real. Feng Zhao started to try hitting the ball. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of the basketball smashing against the floor mixed with the sound of the air inside the ball, stimulating his excited nerves. Feng Zhao walked forward while hitting the ball. His hitting speed became faster and faster, and his dribbling movements became more and more proficient. In the room, Zachary looked at the series of charts displayed on the measuring apparatus and looked at the comprehensive data at the edge. It displayed 60. The highest bar was 100. Generally, reaching 60 was no problem. Looking at these numbers, a relaxed smile appeared on Zachary's face. Not bad. Being able to reach 60 means that you can use it normally. Adapt very well. Maybe you can even reach 70 in another month. Before he could finish speaking, Zachary became mute. He stared blankly at the adaptation value displayed on the screen. After stabilizing at 60, it started to jump again. 61, 64, 68, 72. What did he say just now? Adapt for another month? Not even half an hour had passed, and the adaptability value had already jumped from 60 to 75. Zachary's assistant exclaimed, "TSK, this adaptability is really strong." The data stabilized at 75. Zachary laughed and shook his head. I never expected that this Mr. Feng's adaptability would actually reach 75. I'm afraid some people in the company are going to be disappointed. Previously, there were people who thought that if Mr. Feng was unable to adapt well, once the machine was auctioned, they would buy it. Now, it seems like those people might not have the chance. Master, Zachary's assistant, Borkin, shouted. Zachary sent a message and did not even shift his eyes as he asked, "What?" The data has changed again. Nonsense. The data is always changing. As long as it stabilizes within a certain range, it will be fine. Have you forgotten what I taught you? Zachary said unhappily. No, look. Zachary raised his head and looked at the data on the screen. His eyes slowly widened. The comprehensive value, which had stabilized at 75, started to jump up again. 78, 79, 80, 81. Although it did not rise as quickly as before, it was indeed rising. This could no longer be explained by fluctuations within a reasonable range. This adaptability is too strong, right? Zachary turned his head and asked Zwayu, "Is your boss really in the arts? Doesn't he have a part-time job?" Chapter 118. Other than basketball, Fang Zhao also played soccer, badminton, cycling, driving, shooting, and other events. The feeling of realism became stronger and stronger. It was as if he was really standing in a space, playing with all sorts of tools and not entering a game. By the time Fang Zhao exited the adaptive training mode, he was drenched in sweat. When he left the game console, Fang Zhao realized that the casual clothes he was wearing were completely drenched in sweat. His muscles looked like they had really done those exercises. How magical. Fang Zhao glanced at the taut muscles on his arm, raised his arm, and used his sleeve to wipe the sweat off his face. Only then did he look at Zachary and Borkin, who were standing there in a daze. "Is there a problem?" Fang Zhao asked. No. Zachary glanced at the bright red 91 on the comprehensive statistics and then looked at Fang Zhao, who was standing there, and asked, "Do you feel any discomfort? For example, dizziness or unsteady footing?" Fang Zhao took a few steps and hopped on the spot. "I don't feel any discomfort. I just felt a little dizzy when I exited training mode, but I'll be fine after a few seconds." Zachary looked at the various measurements of Fang Zhao's body on the screen. These were all measurements taken during Fang Zhao's training and before he had completely disconnected from the game console. These numbers proved that Fang Zhao was indeed not lying. "It's my first time using the 10th generation. I do feel a little dizzy when I first leave the game console, but it won't happen after a few more uses." Looking at the final data, Zachary sighed. "How does Mr. Fang feel using it?" "It's pretty good," Fang Zhao said. "It's easy to get addicted." Zachary revealed a proud smile. "To be able to make the players feel addicted is our greatest success. It seems that Mr. Fang also finds joy in games." It seemed that this console would not be sold. "Boss, can I try?" Zwayu asked expectantly. Fang Zhao looked at Zachary. "Can he use it?" Zachary nodded. "The owner of this machine is you, Mr. Fang. As long as you authorize it, he can use it." As he spoke, Zachary taught Fang Zhao how to set up the permissions. "All right, this gentleman can give it a try," Zachary said. After Zwayu entered the adaptive training mode, Fang Zhao saw the number 76 displayed on the last screen in front of Zachary. Zachary had explained the significance of this number to him. "That mister is also adapting pretty well." Zachary looked at the rising numbers and turned to ask Fang Zhao, "He is your bodyguard?"
Yes.
Fang Zhao saw the doubt in Zachary's eyes and asked, "Is there a problem?" Zachary wanted to say something, but in the end, he shook his head. "It's nothing." He just felt that the bodyguard's adaptability was probably not as good as this young man who was said to be a professional composer. Although the starting point was very high, this was probably because Yu had used many similar machines. Just now, when Fang Zhao had used the machine, Zachary had chatted with Yu and knew that Yu was a veteran. Zachary's gaze was focused on the diagrams, while Fang Zhao was looking at the machine lying on the floor in amazement. Just now, he had also been lying here wearing this game suit, but because he was immersed in the adaptation training, he did not know what the specific situation was. Only now did he know that he was exercising intensely in the adaptation mode, but outside of the mode, it was close to static, and only a slight tremble could be seen. The machine covering the surface of the human body was filled with sensors. The sensors transmitted all kinds of data to the information processor, and finally presented it in the form of a chart in front of Zachary. The overall number went from 76 all the way to 87, and then it completely stopped moving. When Zwayu also came out drenched in sweat, he had a satisfied smile on his face. Indeed, the experience is better than those previous game consoles. As expected of the 10th generation, I reckon that the real power suit won't be much different from this. 87? The smile on Zui Yu's face turned into shock when he saw the overall number. I'm only 87? He remembered that Feng Zhao had just reached 91. Zachary helplessly said, exceeding 85 is considered excellent. This is already very high. My boss just reached 91. Zui Yu felt that his ability was being looked down upon. Your boss's adaptability is very good, Zachary said. I came out of the special forces. Your boss is still your boss. Zachary could only think of this reason. After confirming that there were no problems using the machine and that it had reached a high adaptability value of 90 plus, Zachary was not the least bit worried about Feng Zhao's usage problems. He sent a detailed explanation to Feng Zhao and left a contact number. If there are any problems with the machine, just dial this number. Even if I don't have the time, my colleagues will rush over to help you. As he still had other tasks, Zachary did not stay for long. After giving Feng Zhao a few reminders, he left with his assistant. The box that had originally contained the 10th generation was brought along as well. After taking a shower and changing into a set of clean and dry clothes, Feng Zhao called out to Zui Yu, who was still puzzled. Feng Zhao returned to the company with Zui Yu. Although he had become a hands-off manager now, he still had to visit from time to time. The game console had already been delivered and installed. He would probably be playing it continuously for the next few days. Today, he would first head over to the company to ask if there were any other documents that required his signature. After making one round in the virtual projects department, Feng Zhao took the document Zhuzhen had given him and took the elevator to the film department. The few projects that Polar Light and the film department were collaborating on had to be checked with them. When he entered the elevator, Feng Zhao saw that there were 5 other people in the elevator. There was a slightly older manager and 4 youths who looked like university students. There were 3 guys and 1 girl. The parking spaces above were probably full, and they had come from the underground parking lot. The manager recognized Feng Zhao and greeted him with a smile. Manager Feng, are you going to the top floor to report on work? No, I'm going to the film department. Did you bring in newcomers again? Feng Zhao remembered that this person had brought in different people in the past. Yes, these 4 are the ones that we will be focusing on developing. The manager did not hide anything. Feng Zhao understood. These were probably the company's strategic reserves. When the entertainment market was being attacked by games, these dual-career gamers and actors who had invested in the industry in advance would be transferred over to focus on development. The 5 of them also had to go to the film department. When the elevator doors opened, the manager did not go out first. Instead, he gestured to Feng Zhao that he should go first. Originally, 2 of the youths had already lifted their feet and were about to step out, but when they saw this, they retracted their feet. After Feng Zhao left the elevator and was a distance away, the few youths who had just exited the elevator asked their new manager, "Who is he?" "The number 1 in the virtual projects department. You guys are new, so you might not be familiar with him," the manager replied. "Also a manager?" A young man wearing a baseball cap pointed in the direction Feng Zhao had left and asked incredulously, "He is a department manager? He looks about the same age as me. Is he famous?" "Yes, from the virtual projects department. Back then, the head of Fiery Bird's sound effects department even mentioned him." "Oh, right. Back then you guys were undergoing closed-door training and did not pay attention to entertainment news. That person is really impressive." The virtual projects department was established under his leadership. He is a rising star in the music industry and an awesome person who dares to directly negotiate terms with Director Duan. In the past, everyone wanted to stay away from the virtual projects department, but now everyone is trying their best to squeeze in. There are benefits, lots of money, and a bright future. Sounds impressive, but it has nothing to do with us. He is not in the gaming circles anyway, a short-haired girl playing with a handheld game said nonchalantly. "That's true, but in the future when you meet him in the company, be careful," the manager exhorted. "Got it," the 4 of them replied verbally. They did not take it seriously. The music industry was too far away from them, and they would not enter the virtual projects department. No matter how impressive the other party was, it had nothing to do with them. At most, they would give in to him and the company. When Feng Zhao went to look for the film department manager he was watching a live interview. He knew that Feng Zhao did not understand the gaming circles, so he explained, 2S Esports Club's main player, Kuzimo. He's been in the limelight recently. As if recalling something, laughed. That kid even dissed your department today. Told Feng Zhao about this morning's news. At that time, Feng Zhao had been waiting at home to install his computer and had not followed the news. That kid is unhappy with Fiery Bird's choice of virtual idols. He feels that they are the most professional and has written to Fiery Bird headquarters many times, requesting a change of spokesperson. When endorsing a game, the most professional and outstanding person should be chosen. However, Fiery Bird seems to have loosened up, so that kid Kuzimo is especially pleased today. He feels that your virtual projects department has gotten lucky this time and will not be so lucky in the future. These few famous esports clubs in Yinzhou were no longer closed-door training. The reason why closed-door training was not made public, other than some of the club's internal training secrets. The closed-door training was for them to familiarize themselves with the game and learn how to use things they did not understand. At the beginning, the training would not be very pleasant. If videos were released, they might even lose fans, but now it was different. Once they were truly proficient, they could release those videos to stir up fans. In the new era, there were too many esports clubs. As a commercial organization, not only did they have to ensure their own strength, they also had to capture the hearts of fans. Especially at a time like this, when it was a rare global e-gaming event that happened once every 10 years. In terms of commercial value, the esports clubs did not have to continue maintaining their aloof attitude. From time to time, releasing a few videos and accepting a few interviews was also a good thing. For example, videos of Big Dipper esports club's captain leading a team to race in an old-era car, or videos of Boom's team riding custom-made motorcycles around the city, and so on. And this time, 2S Esports Club was preparing to have a practice match with Boom Esports Club. The theme was a heavy-duty motorcycle. They had also discussed it with the Fiery Bird division. When the time came, the official website would release a map for them to compete on. And Kuzimo was the main force of this practice match. It's just an ordinary means of transportation from the old era. It's a little difficult to drive, but it's still easy for me to handle. Actually, I have a motorcycle made according to the old era at home. I've been driving it for a few years now, and I haven't encountered any difficulties in-game. During the interview, Kuzimo laughed flamboyantly. This time around, why did you choose to have a practice match with Boom Esports Club? This is your first practice match after your vows, right? The program host asked. Kuzimo spread his hands helplessly. No choice. Only Boom Esports Club has professional racers. The other teams are too weak. He emphasized the last three words. Needless to say, the reactions of the other three esports clubs who were watching this news would be obvious. They were also known as Yinzhou's top 5, but this kid actually dared to publicly belittle them in an interview. As you all know, my other occupation is a racer. I was once the champion of the Junior Division Continental Championship, but then my focus shifted to esports and I no longer participated in those kinds of competitions. I was also unable to participate in the Junior Division competition at the start of this year. However, I feel that I have no rivals in this field. I was unable to participate in the championship, but I have never stopped gaming. Transportation from the old era is much more difficult to operate than it is now, but I'm the best driver in the team. Kuzimo sighed. I really want to compete with those seniors from the period of destruction. If you had the chance to compete with those seniors from the period of destruction, who do you think would win? The host asked with a smile. Me, of course. Kuzimo flashed a victory sign at the camera. The smile on his face was not a joking one, but one that carried a hint of arrogance. That was what he really thought. That kid is really confident, Feng Zhao suddenly said. Beside him, He nodded in agreement when he heard Feng Zhao's words. That kid is a little arrogant, but his talent is indeed astonishing. He comes from a racing family and is a dual professional. He really has the ability, and he has the capital to be arrogant. However, comparing him to those seniors from the period of destruction is a little rude. He knows that those seniors could not have come back to life. Who can prove that he is better than them? Just based on his mouth? Fang Zhao laughed and did not say anything else. The interview continued. Cosimo did not feel that there was anything wrong with what he had just said. He even emphasized, "Actually, I feel that everyone should face up to history. The seniors from the period of destruction have been overly glorified. What is described in the textbooks is too perfect, even fake. One look, and you can tell that it is fake." Among the videos that have been passed down, not a single one can prove the situation described in the textbooks. I am a professional racer, so I have the deepest feelings. There are some things that are really impossible to do. For example, a certain article mentioned that the famous leader of the period of destruction, Fang Zhao, rode a motorcycle and fired a shot at a target. After that, he and his bike were thrown off, flipped a few times, and slid 20 meters. Then, he and his bike got back up and continued running. Isn't this nonsense? Do you think this is a circus? It is simply an insult to my intelligence. Fang Zhao, that little brat. In the live broadcast, the host's smile was a little forced. It just so happened that the majority of the netizens agreed and seconded the suggestion, strongly requesting that the historical text be deleted. When the interview was about to end, Cosimo faced the screen. The model we are using for the competition is a heavy-duty motorcycle specially designed by Firybird. It is even more difficult. To those rookies, I have one more thing to say. You should eat according to your appetite. Rookies should not seek death by trying. Just watch us when the time comes. Chapter 119. He did not think too much about Fang Zhao's reaction. He knew that many people who shared the same name as the martyrs would revere and worship those martyrs even more. They did not like to hear anyone speak ill of those martyrs, so it was normal for Fang Zhao to be dissatisfied with what Cosimo had said. Those people are just like that. Don't lower yourself to their level, he how consoled. Mimhm, Fang Zhao smiled, but he would not tell he how exactly what he was thinking. When Fang Zhao returned home from the company, he checked the news online. In terms of entertainment, almost every entertainment media outlet was reporting on the upcoming practice match between 2S and Boom Esports Club. This was a warm-up match before the official release of the game. It was meant to pique the interest of other players. Previously, Firybird had already released a small map for players to adapt to. Players who entered the map would observe the city from the perspective of a bystander, observing the daily lives of the residents of that era and how they used various items. And now, Firybird had opened up yet another map. It was similar to the previous one, except that the characters inside had been removed. It was specially opened up for 2S and Boom Esports Club to use as practice matches. After this practice match, even more players would be able to enter. In summary, 2S and Boom, these two Yenzhou powerhouses, had a cooperative relationship with Firebird's Yenzhou division. This practice match was beneficial to both sides. The news also released the Firybird-designed heavy-duty motorcycle, the T-Rex. It was said that the T-Rex was considered rare equipment in the game. Each continent had a limited number of 200 units, and all 12 continents combined only had 2,400 units. It seemed like a lot, but compared to other equipment, it was considered rare. Otherwise, it would not have been classified as rare equipment. Whether or not one could obtain it would depend on one's own ability. Thus, before that, Firybird used the practice match between 2S and Boom Esports Club to advertise the T-Rex and stimulate the enthusiasm of players. The practice match was held on September 3rd at 10 a.m., and Su Ho had come to pick up the dog early in the morning on the 2nd. He knew that Fang Zhao had a Firybird 10th generation game console, so he had gotten a kick out of it. Unfortunately, because he was still young, many games were restricted, so no matter how envious he was, he could only stare blankly. Every day, he would watch some live streams or highlight clips to satisfy his craving. After Su Ho left with curly hair, Fang Zhao logged onto Firebird's official platform and entered the practice area. There were a few heavy-duty motorcycles to choose from, but none of them were the T-Rex that had been seen in the news. Although it looked a little weaker, it was sufficient for practice. It had been a long time since Feng Zhao had ridden a heavy-duty motorcycle. Ordinary motorcycles were easy to get used to, but this was the first time he had ridden a heavy-duty motorcycle after waking up. In the latter half of his previous life, due to the decline of his bodily functions and injuries, the Research Institute had developed a new type of transportation, but Feng Zhao had used them sparingly. When he had awoken in this body in the new era, those vehicles had long been obsolete and could no longer be used. Feng Zhao had thought that he would be rusty, but when he actually rode one and listened to the roar of the engine, his brain was in a state of extreme excitement. His brain's memory seemed to have adjusted every part of his body to the most appropriate level. 4 hours later, Feng Zhao came out of the machine. The excitement in his brain only gradually calmed down after returning to reality. Holding a glass of water, Feng Zhao walked to the window and gazed at the splendid lights of the city. It was already afternoon when he entered the game. It was already dark outside, but the center of the city would never be deserted just because the sun had set. The wind on the top floor was strong and chilly. After finishing the water that had already turned warm and shutting the window, Feng Zhao looked at the excited entertainment section and smiled. September 3rd, 8 o'clock in the morning. Many people had already opened the Fiery Bird official Yenzhou branch's live broadcast channel and were waiting. Even though it was just a practice match, the attention was not low. Fans of the two esports clubs, 2S and Boom, were arguing fervently. There were even people setting up bets. Feng Zhao took a look and saw that there were slightly more people supporting 2S to win, probably because they had more confidence in Kuzimo, who already had so many racing trophies under his belt. In the Virtual Projects Department's group chat, Feng Zhao discovered that Zuwan and the others were still discussing who would win last night at 11 a.m. Presumably, they would also be watching today's live broadcast. Feng Zhao browsed through the news while eating breakfast and put it aside. He logged into the game to familiarize himself with the game. This morning's entertainment headlines were dominated by the practice match between 2S and Boom esports clubs. The other three teams in Yenzhou's top 5 would not miss out on this opportunity to observe their opponent's abilities. Even though it was just a practice match, they could gauge their opponent's abilities based on their familiarity with the tools they used. A person who was proficient in the use of various tools had a rather strong ability to survive in troubled times. This was applicable in real life as well as in the game. At Big Dipper Esports Club headquarters, the main team members had all arrived. This was their internal viewing area, so it was convenient for discussion. There were no other gaming teams present. Who do you think will win? 2S, I guess. Even though that Kazimo kid's words are asking for a beating, there's no denying that he is very capable and talented. If not for his young age 10 years ago, he would have already crossed swords with us. He made a name for himself in the gaming circles early and is worthy of the high salary 2S is offering. I hope Boom wins. If that Kazimo kid really does win, he won't even need to wait until tomorrow to trample on us a few more times today. It's just riding a bike, and he's so cocky. No matter how well he rides, it doesn't mean he will have the last laugh. Not a single great general of the founding era was a racer. I think there's a guy who drives a truck, the one from Jizhou. Wasn't the one from Jizhou a retired soldier before he drove a truck? He was a driver, so he could be considered a racer. Speaking of which, that Kuzimo kid even suspected the martyr Feng Zhao. If not for the fact that people are much more tolerant of such comments and that the martyr Feng Zhao has no direct descendants, I reckon that kid would have been called for tea after the interview. If he really had the guts, why didn't he mention the great General Wu Yin, who was even more exaggerated in the history textbooks? He only knew that no one would give him any trouble by mentioning the martyr Feng Zhao. He is arrogant, but he is not stupid. He knows who he can talk about and won't get in trouble. What a pity, Captain Yi Yuan sighed. Yi Yuan recalled the day when Kuzimo had said those words during the interview. Many people online had jokingly said that Feng Zhao's coffin could not be kept down any longer. Yi Yuan's history was not bad, and he worshipped the leader who had left a deep mark in Yenzhou's history. The only pity was that Wu Yin had been unlucky. If he had endured for another year, how could the Wu family have developed? Unfortunately, the Wu family's descendants had not been able to grasp such a good opportunity. After the founding era, there had been internal strife. Even though their influence was slowly rising, Yinzhou was no longer a place where they could cover the sky with one hand. Many Yinzhou governors did not have the surname Wu. This was also something that foreigners often used to mock Yinzhou. Yet, many Yinzhou people did not care. Sigh. Yuan could only sigh. If he had been good at this, he would definitely have participated in this practice match. But the reality was that he was not good at it. Rather than go up and make the opponent a laughingstock, it was better to sit down and analyze the opponent's strength. At 9:30, the live broadcast started broadcasting the two teams that had already logged in, as well as the fans of both sides, and the players who had also managed to snatch a spot to participate in the practice match. That's right, besides 2S and Boom Esports clubs, Fiery Bird's Yinzhou branch had released 100 spots. These spots were usually open to premium VIP customers first. Only when there were extra spots would they be opened up to other players. Yinzhou's big 5 esports clubs all had premium VIP spots, but this time, the other 3 teams did not have anyone participating. If they knew that they were not good at it, wouldn't they be asking for a slap in the face? The background of the live broadcast was a map that Fiery Bird had released in advance. The starting point was a village outside the city, which was already bustling with activity. The black heavy-duty motorcycles at the scene were like violent beasts, brimming with power. Half of the thick rear tires were exposed, like a tyrannosaurus that was ready to hunt at any time. To people of the new era, they gave off an oppressive, primitive, and wild aura. Amidst the explosive electronic dance music, the commentator's tone was agitated. From time to time, he would let out a few weird shouts. He knew how to stir up the emotions of fans and players. Beside him, there were other high-class VIP players who were also participating in the competition. Their engines were revving at high speeds, and they were screaming hysterically amidst the loud roar of the engines, wantonly venting their emotions. The emotions of the fans were very crazy, but they were also very orderly. They would not cause trouble. They had probably been carefully selected, probably specially designed for this practice match. The starting section of the road was very wide. At the very front were the people from 2S and Boom Esports clubs. However, they would not send out their entire main force. Each side had sent out 5 people as representatives. Their motorcycles had the decorative designs of their respective clubs on them. Behind them were the other players who had come over to try and snatch the Tyrannosaurus spots. The clothes worn by the players were also different. Some had their own logos, while others were in the default black professional attire that the system had set. They were armed to the teeth with their uniforms and protective gear. The explosive electronic dance music abruptly stopped, and there was a momentary silence. However, very quickly, there were even crazier screams. This meant that the match was about to begin. Following an explosive sound, the 10 people in front had already rushed out. Amidst the tyrannical roar of the engines, the seemingly huge and cumbersome motorcycles finally unreservedly exuded their ferocious aura. The large displacement, high power output, and other parameters were telling people that they were not as cumbersome as they looked. They were 2-wheeled heavy-duty sports cars. After the 10 people, the other players followed one after another. However, they did not have a strong desire to compete. They just wanted to follow behind and have fun. Some people, because they were not familiar with driving, or perhaps because they were too excited and did not control their motorcycles well, crashed not long after and went offline. In other words, if this had happened in real life, they would have been dead. The few players near the person who crashed were also affected, and they were knocked out together. Although the few players did not go offline directly, because the crash was too hard, both the motorcycles and the people were damaged. Because the pain level was lowered in the game, they did not feel too much. Those few people were also not interested in continuing to follow. They took the initiative to go offline and watch the live broadcast. This practice match was under full surveillance. Therefore, the people watching the live broadcast could watch from the front, the back, the left, the right, and the top. The live broadcast camera was mainly focused on the 10 people in front. The people at the starting point were ready to go offline to watch the live broadcast. At this time, they suddenly saw another figure appear at the starting point. Seeing that the person was also riding a T-Rex, they knew that this was also one of the 100 players who had managed to get a slot. "Hey bro, you're late. The other side has already set off. I'm afraid you won't be able to make it in time. However, you can follow behind and have some fun," a person at the starting point said. The person riding the black motorbike nodded at the person who spoke and started the engine. The motorbike rushed out with a deafening roar. "Who is that?" a player at the starting point asked. "Look at the motorbike uniform on him. He's not from 2S or Boom. I don't see any logo either. I can't guess who he is." "Who cares? He must be a player who wants to join in the fun. Hurry up and go offline to watch the live broadcast. We can't see anything from here." You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.